These conspiracy theories were first spread by radio talk show host Alex Jones.
But to get the employee at YouTube on tape admitting that they do it? I mean, you must be a threat if they call you out by name.
It's fun.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Name Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones is a lunatic.
Because we know that these are legitimate news organizations. And if at that point somebody decides they're going to scroll past that and go find Alex Jones, well, they were looking for him to begin with anyway.
That man's a threat to this country.
There's a guy on the radio.
His name is Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
There's a lot of controversy around this network about Alex Jones, for example.
It's time to stop submitting to this tyranny. It's time to realize that we're being enslaved.
I heard that on Alex Jones.
InfoWars went even further.
InfoWars, it's a radio show hosted by Alex Jones.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Nobody can dispute the fact
that you're a rapist.
Infowars.com.
InfoWars comes to mind.
InfoWars.
Right now, the war is the info war.
You watch InfoWars?
I got a chant going.
Looking at widely reported information from InfoWars.
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 Infowars.com. I want freedom. That's what I want, and that's what you should want.
Hello, this is Hank Hill, and I'm telling you what, you need to listen to Alex Jones.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Imagine that it's 1987. You go watch a science fiction movie at the theater, and in the film, based in a dystopic future, these are the fictitious headlines, the fictional headlines. Top Democrats in Chicago and in Cook County call for UN troops on the ground, and the UN troops are already in talks, ready to move in. That's Infowars.com, Paul Joseph Watson. It's a real headline. It's happening. And then I have all the articles where we warned you, Obama administration and UN announced global police force to fight extremism in the U.S. John Bound, Infowars.com, special report, Strong Cities Network, euphemism for New World Order police force and UN troops in our cities, and federalization under the UN directive of our police. Loretta Lynch said that last year. Literally. There's video. We played it like 20 times. Strong Cities Network plan for globally controlled police force. This is from the Justice Department. Launch of Strong Cities Network to strengthen community reliance against violent extremism. Gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, nationalists. Beware of the Strong Cities Network, says the New American Magazine. John F. McManus. It's here. They were planning all this when Hillary got in as the next phase. They said they were. The censorship, the control, the internet handed over to the UN, all of it. But now it's being derailed because of our nationalist movement against the globalists. This is so huge. That's one stack of the news. Then, intercontinental ballistic missile intercepted over Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, seconds before slamming into the royal palace. It was on target and blew up right above the palace. And that's just the explosion point, and the pieces rain down. I mean, this is getting crazier and crazier by the moment. Mueller has come out and announced that, or they're set to announce another year because now their investigation's derailed. They don't want to admit that it's been derailed. I mean, there is just so much going on. This is such a crazy time, such an insane time to be alive. And it boggles the mind of how crazy all of this is. And then it gets even worse when we come back from break. We've all seen the knockout game footage on World Star Hip Hop. But now they've passed laws in certain countries in Europe that outlaw showing footage of black people or Arabs attacking, beating, and killing white people. They're now passing laws we cannot say the race of who did it. And Google and Facebook are now removing the videos. The video we're showing you right now on our own streams at Infowars.com/show, they will undoubtedly try to censor because they are covering up the vicious, vicious explosion of rapes and racial attacks under the leftist system where they have told the minorities, who are the majority worldwide, to attack and take out white people. French mayors panic as migrants overwhelm cities, beg Macron for help. Just massive fires every night, attacks, deaths. Sweden, migrants charged with ruthless gang rape of woman. Walk free. Swedish police banned from describing criminals anymore in cases if they sound racist. Attack in Nuremberg. Man collapses. Pensioner on the street. The man's fighting for his life. Totally knocked out. 70-something-year-old retiree. Then his head stomped by a guy that looks like Muhammad Ali. There's an old man. Guy's walking around all crazy in his underwear. That's how it is with, I mean, it's just giant third world populations that never even had toilets from mud huts, just running around. A lot of them had bones in their noses just 6 months ago, and now they're here just killing, because that's what tribes do, is kill each other. An ICBM was fired today and detonated above the Royal Palace in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Undoubtedly, that has to do with the ongoing Shiite-Sunni civil war in the region. It was probably fired from the place the last missile came from. We're going to be getting to that incredible information. We're also going to be getting into this bombshell. They're actually doing it. They actually did it. The United Nations is working as we speak with Chicago Democrats to bring UN troops onto the streets of Chicago. We're going to get into that entire plan. Now Mueller's talking about extending his probe into the end of next year because they found nothing. McMaster, the National Security Advisor, is on chances of war with North Korea. All options are on the table as they now claim that North Korea launched a sophisticated ransomware attack on the West. The problem is, and I'm not defending North Korea, and they certainly do bad things. They're very brazen. The problem is we have the data dumps of Vault 7 and Vault 8 where the CIA documents show that they busily frame foreign countries and have the software to do it. So that has to be looked at. The big news, ladies and gentlemen, that you're about to see and you're about to hear deals with the premeditated, organized, United Nations global program to end all nation states and all cultures on the planet that would conflict with a private global corporate world government. As we speak, Cook County and the city of Chicago are publicly in talks to put armed UN peacekeepers on the streets of Cook County and Chicago. That now ties in to this censored information. But Paul Watson has it all detailed on Infowars.com and on newswars.com. Now, in Europe, the invasion to destabilize things, to have the pretext to have an EU army take over with UN backing, is 10 million Islamicists at least brought in the last 5 years, 80% or more military-age men engaging in mass gang rapings, murders, killings, mass fires in every country, every night. Paul Watson's family worked in the steel mills. Those got shut down, deindustrialized. They were, with property cost there, they were able to sell their houses and move to France a decade ago. They just left France. It's even in small towns. There's just Muslims running around, burning things, murdering people, hitting people on the back of the head, and the police don't even know what to do because the prisons are all full. They're bringing in more. Paris has 80% or 90%, depending on the month. Tourism down. There's just feces everywhere and giant shanty towns and people robbing, raping, killing. Every day, new videos come out of the darling little migrants savagely beating, stomping, and killing mainly old people. And how does Google, Facebook, and Twitter respond? The new video came out just a few days ago, and it's been removed everywhere it's posted. German government statements have stated and have chastised local news for showing it. I have a printout from the local news. They're told, you're not supposed to show that. They could show any other crime. But you don't show a black migrant walk over to an old person on the side of the street and cold cock him, knockout game, his head hits the pavement, and then his head is further curb stomped, and the man is fighting for his life. There are literally hundreds of fires a night. Major highways are shut down. They have a civil emergency. There are videos in Germany and in France of trees being blocked in front of the road, like something out of Day of the Dead, and hundreds of Arab men run out and drag families out of their cars into the night. Rapes, deaths, everything. French mayors panic as migrants overwhelm cities, beg Macron for help. Zero Hedge, it's up on Infowars.com. Sweden, migrants charged with ruthless gang rape of woman walk free. That's right, I see these cases every day, just like in San Francisco. Oh, you shoot the woman in the back for no reason, she dies, she's white, we're going to let you go because this is part of an operation directed by liberal socialist white people who want a helter-skelter race war and who are trying to detonate it. This is just today's news. Swedish police banned from describing criminals race because they could be called racist. And again, Sweden's actually passing laws, so is Germany. And here's the article out of Focus. Attack in Nuremberg, collapses pensioner on the street. He's in critical condition, fighting for his life. And here is the video for TV viewers. I'll describe it for radio listeners. CCTV camera. But still, you're not even supposed to see any of this or know this or understand this. And again, we'll show the video from the beginning because I want to show the lead up. There's a man in his underwear, black man, African migrant. It would be called a UN invader. He walks over to the 70-plus-year-old German, cold cocks him because the man's back's turned to him, knocks him to the ground, and then decides to full power soccer kick him in the head and then stomp him in the curb at least 5 more times. And this was also caught on cell phone video. There's several of these. But the German media has been admonished not to show it because it shows the impossible. A black person attacking a white person. Even though on average, for every black person attacked by a white person, you have more than 10 times on the other side. Now it's even higher in the age of Obama, hyping incredible racism. Now, most black people aren't foaming at the mouth racist, but when the media hypes it up and people then think it's okay, it happens. A big example of this was the phenomenon of rolling queers, as it was called, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, where normal people that weren't criminals, who wouldn't go out and mug folks, didn't think of themselves as criminals, they'd say, well, we can go rob some gay guys because they're effeminate, at least on average, they thought, and it's okay because they deserve it. And you see it fictionalized in things like Boogie Nights and stuff like that. That went on. It's the same thing. They've now taught black young people and Hispanics to a certain extent, but it's mainly statistically blacks that just go out and attack white people. Old lady on a bus, old man here, and again, they normally target someone they think is weak. Hippies, liberals, trendies. I played the local news a few weeks ago here in Austin, where the liberal walks out of the bar. 6 black guys come up and start beating the hell out of him saying, screw Trump, F Trump. To the point you can't go in trendy areas of Austin now. You can't go in East Austin around the trendy areas. You can't go in those areas downtown because I'm not a wimp. I don't look like a small, easy guy to fight. And black guys walk up. Told the story a few years ago. I've gone back since. And they give me your money right now. They don't even have weapons. And you're like looking at them and say, man, not going to give you my money. So that's what, and see, it's okay because I'm white, you see. I'm an effing white male. And the media said it was okay. So it's okay to rape women, gang rape if you're Muslim. It's okay. It's okay to knock all women in the back of the head if they're white, if they're white, if they're white. We'll be back. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. The Democrats in Chicago and Cook County are in talks with the UN to bring in armed UN peacekeeping troops in violation of the sovereignty of this nation. Under the Strong Cities Initiative, Obama had planned, once Hillary got in place, to actually have every major police department federalized after national riots they were going to foment and have the local departments put under UN control. That is official. Special report, Strong Cities Network, euphemism for New World Order police force, John Bown, Infowars.com, 2015. Obama administration and UN announced global police force to fight extremism in the U.S. Breitbart. And then now, today, it is being announced by the UN and being announced by Cook County and by Chicago, the city that they are in talks to bring in armed United Nations. Just like they bring in 10 million Muslims, most of them military-age males. They start raping, killing, pillaging. That's what they do in their own countries. In those African areas, one tribe's always killing the tribe next door. That's how you fight for resources. These are not civilized countries, and they're bringing people from totally uncivilized areas beyond third world, where there is no world. Central Africans are being brought up through the slave trade and then turned into Muslims and then deployed into Europe by George Soros, who literally pays for it and has the Zodiac boats going back and forth doing it all day. Tourism's down massively. Everything's falling apart. French mayors panic as migrants overwhelm cities, beg Macron for help. It's all there, and it's all part of a plan. And if you show the fires, if you show the old people being beaten, if you show people pooping in the pool, if you show them raping women, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter will take it down. Even if it's shot at 100 yards away and just shows the racial attack, they cannot let the people know it's happening. The media is there to cover up the truth. It's there to victimize the population. It's there to ensure that the globalist takeover is complete. And then when everything falls apart like Chicago or like Stockholm, Sweden, who's seen a 5,000% increase in crime in just the last few years, 90+% being the Islamic invaders, when that happens, they say, oh, we got an EU army that's going to take care of that. We got an EU Navy that's going to take care of that. Oh, we've got a UN force that's going to take care of that. That's the plan. And it's literally happening. I mean, I got to be honest. First, I thought they'd put troops on the streets in Chicago. Again, take the guns, bring in the drugs, let it all fall apart. 90+% of the crime is black on black. And I'm sad that that's happening. But again, the media covers up all those statistics and says the effing white males are to blame. I guess we're to blame for the headhunters in New Guinea, in the Pacific Ocean. I guess we're to blame for the Aztecs cutting people's hearts out. I mean, no. Humans have all had bad periods, and humans have all come from primitive beginnings. There were one tribe killing other tribes in Germany 2,000 years ago. They were living in caves. But civilization started, and people decided to not live by the code of barbarism, but by the code of honor and technology and science. And now the West is falling because the technocracy wants it out of the way, and it wants a giant, dumbed-down mass of people to exploit and control before the technocracy is brought in their own words. Again, another thing we told you about decades ago that's happening. I remember when I was a child hearing about the UN plan of Henry Kissinger to create so much crime in L.A. and Chicago that finally one day we would accept UN troops on the streets. And then in Evian, France, was it 1992? pull up his quote because it was put in the paper. He said, today no one would accept UN troops in Los Angeles, but if there was a big enough global crisis, they would. Pull up Henry Kissinger quote. Bilderberg, Henry Kissinger quote on UN troops in America. Well, guess what, folks? Here it is. Here it is right now with all of them saying we're going to have UNESCO come in through the police departments with federal control and use the federal authority to then order police departments that we've bullied and demonized and attacked to sign on to strong cities and go under Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, UN control, just like the WikiLeaks said they want them in control of the internet. And those are the same groups in control of Google, Facebook, and Twitter censorship now. And they want to cover up what they're doing because they're directing the takeover. Commissioner in talks with UN to put troops on the streets of Chicago. The United Nations has a track record of protecting minority populations, just like the United Nations came out and sued Arpaio and things, talked about suing Texas for daring to stop illegal aliens pouring across, saying you don't have a right to have borders. We, the UN, will direct the third world population with our migrant board that then orders your government on who to let in. There it is. 1991 in Evian, France. I said 92, so my memory isn't perfect. Today, Americans would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will pledge with world leaders to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. Henry Kissinger in an address to Bilderberg meeting, Evian, France, May 21st, 1992. You can say, oh, well, we don't know if that paper that got that leak was right. Okay, well, here's 2017, December 19th. Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin is in talks with United Nations officials to explore the possibility of putting UN troops on the streets of Chicago to address the city's horrendous gun violence problem. And the UN, of course, has their Unity Treaty to ban all small arms. Boykin, in citizens' hands, not, of course, they'll have it. They'll be the big mothership. They'll be the big central control. Boykin, the Peacekeepers, flew to New York last week to meet with UN Assistant Secretary General of the Peace Building Support, Oscar Fernandez Trananco, to discuss the issue. The United Nations has a track record of protecting minority populations. Boykin said before the meeting there was tribal warfare between the Tutsis and the Hutus in Africa, and they deployed peacekeeping troops to help save those populations and reduce bloodshed. Actually, the UN's now been caught and admittedly ran the mass murder of 800,000 people at least. The Clintons oversaw it. That's mainstream news. We have to do something. Black people in Chicago make up 30% of the population, but 80% of those who are killed by gun violence. Isn't that interesting that it was the UN that went in and killed the Christian minority, took their property using the animist group to do it, that was 85% of the population, and then admittedly helped them get all rounded up and then slaughtered, and then, oh, we need the UN to come in because they love black people. Mayor Rahm Emanuel did not directly address any potential role for the United Nations in Chicago when asked by reporters. The idea of deploying UN peacekeepers on U.S. soil is likely to rile many on the right who have warned about international forces conducting gun confiscation operations domestically for decades, which they're saying this would be. The peacekeepers would do gun sweeps. Earlier this year, President Trump suggested deploying the National Guard in troubled areas of Chicago, but his idea was fiercely opposed by Democrats. There you go. They're in talks to bring in UN troops. Infowars.com. And that'll just be the icebreaker, the precedent setter. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here with emergency breaking news. Democrat officials in Chicago have called for UN peacekeepers on the streets for years. They refused to have National Guard sent in by the president. Now, Cook County officials and others are in talks with the UN to bring in peacekeepers for gun sweeps in Chicago. That's mainstream news. It's linked up on Infowars.com. Matt Dubiel began frantically calling my producers. I've known Matt 8 years. Very nice family guy. Shot the famous footage of the rioting at the Trump event in Chicago. Was the first to report that it was paid agitators that did it. So he's a very good, accurate news source. I've been the station manager there for many, many years. He called up panicked, and I have his email. We're getting him on here in a minute. We're dialing him right now. He said, as Alex started speaking, because he was at the station, he was driving around, about Chicago, air feed cut on AM, FM, but no break in your feed. He goes in, he checks, satellite, we're on it, but not on the station. The UN vehicles are already here. I saw them transported by train in on rail. Okay. Now, that's Matt's email to us. We just got him. Now, you're asking, how does that happen? I was working at 98.9 KJFK in 1996 when they put in the EAS new systems for emergency alerts that are computerized and can now have keyword and cut off your feed and then force their feed on or kill it. And you've all heard about these emergency break-ins where it says martial law on the TV scrolling and all that kind of stuff. They go, oh, it's just a drill. And now the forced alerts on your phones and forced alerts on your TVs. And now televisions turn on now and do forced alerts. This is all part of this emergency alert, COG, nuclear war type scenario thing. But it can be used for martial law. And Deep State could use it like an Operation Valkyrie to try to take over all local government. And I remembered when I read Matt's email just 4 minutes ago during the break, that I remember there's always old footage of UN vehicles getting refurbished and sold to third world countries that the U.S. had paid for. And I'm like, no, that's not a UN invasion. But I remember last year and this year, footage going into Chicago of the big trains with the brand new armored vehicles and weapons. I mean, that's one of them, but no, that's U.S. equipment that actually are white and say UN on them. And we had the guest on who got the drone footage of all the UN vehicles painted up and things. And the word was they were going to U.S. cities. Remember that? That was about a year and a half ago, too. So all this started clicking. But here's the deal. This is them calling for UN troops for gun confiscation. It's on Infowars.com. So then Matt, who's a family guy, reporter, great source, he says he saw them come into Chicago. It is just crazy. But bigger than that, the feed, he's getting the satellite, but it all goes through your board, everything, but at the tower, whether it's at your building or whether it's at your translator, you have to have these boxes that are very expensive that come to you from the FCC, but it's really Homeland Security, and it's a big computer. And Matt Dubiel, let's go to you right now, WCKG 1530. You're on phone with us, not your normal Skype. When you co-host with us, yeah, there's some of the footage of United Nations military vehicles in Maryland, armored vehicles, you name it. And the word is these were then cached in every major city. And they thought Hillary would be in, they just go ahead with this. But now Trump is in, but they're still going ahead. Wow. He tried to stabilize the city with National Guard. They said, no, thank you. We want you in. Matt Dubiel, this is beyond looking bad. This is absolutely horrible. And undoubtedly now they're testing us. I mean, Loretta Lynch said this was their plan to federalize police. And now it looks like they're going ahead with it, bringing the UN. Matt Dubiel, again, station manager for our FM and AM for 8 years in Chicago. What have you witnessed and what happened to the feed? Are we still off in Chicago right now?
We Alex, I mean, people are going to think I'm nuts. I don't even care because I know what's happening, and I know how this stuff works when it's supposed to work properly. The moment you spoke about Chicago, because it's my station, so I'm monitoring it. The moment you started talking about Chicago, I perked up and I went, oh, great, this is awesome. We were, he's talking about our hometown. We're on here. This is great. It's not just national stuff. It immediately went silent. Not static, not off the air. They call that no carrier in radio, So there's the signal is going out, but it's complete silence. So I pull over, and I'm not at the station, and I'm about to call my engineer at the station. He texts me, and he tells me everything is fine. Everything is totally fine here. Everything is working. We're getting a feed from Austin. There's no power outage. There's no internet outage. There's no satellite outage. The minute he texted me, he said the minute that Alex started talking about Chicago and the UN, we went silent, but I could still hear the feed in the studio. It just was cut off AM and FM.
Well, let me be clear. Let me be clear. The Democrats particularly were going to bring us into the UN, collapse the U.S. this year. This was the year. Trump wasn't supposed to get in. Patriots and our intelligence agencies, the American people fought back, got Trump in, because it was going to be the end of the U.S. as we know it. One world government. And they have keywords in the EAS systems on cable, on broadcast TV, on all now under net neutrality under Obama. They were putting in these control systems into all the internet switching hubs, even down to companies that have as little as 100 customers. So they wired this. I've talked to all the engineers. You have them as well. That's why you know. And again, if it was a bad feed in the receiver, you can hear it on the satellite. It's coming in. It would be scrambled or it would be static. No, as you said, it's dead. It just cuts it. But more and more, this has happened on C-SPAN. It happens a lot on CNN, where somebody says what they're not supposed to, keywords about Hillary or Obama or corruption, remember, in the servers, and congressmen, you name it, would go dead, and it would just cut out and go black. And so that's what they've got, is pre-programmed, just like Shazam is 10 years old. You can hold it up with your phone, listen to the music at the mall. In 10 seconds, it knows what music it's hearing. Same thing. Now the computers, Facebook admits they scan the videos live time of this show. And when we say something we're not supposed to, it just cuts the feed right there. So that's all this is this software, Matt Dubiel.
Well, and here's why, to me, it's even more important, because, you know, if this were...
Well, stations are going to have to take out the EAS systems because we're going under martial law. They take Trump out. And so it's a captured government, so you can still transmit it. They'll take over your feeds. I'm just telling folks. Again, we have a good FCC at the top with IG Pie, but the programs, the AI is already in everything. Go ahead.
And they update it, you know, like firmware. So every so often you get the firmware update to the EAS system. And when that happens, you notice. So this was a big deal to me today, because you're specifically talking about the commissioner in Cook County, which is the big county in Chicago. There's a bunch of suburban counties, but Cook County is the county that is Chicago's in. It's where the airports are. It's where all the gunshot deaths are. And this commissioner in Chicago is calling for the UN to come into Chicago. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking to myself, I got to call Alex, because... And I kind of hinted at this yesterday, but I didn't want to get into it. Now I'm just going to have to. I saw, this happened in August, okay? And I just called my wife to find out the exact date, because it's on the calendar. It was August 16th of this year that I saw a train heading from the north, traveling to the south side of Chicago. It traveled over the highway right outside of Chicago Metro, and it had dozens and dozens of UN vehicles on top of it. And I saw it. I saw it with my own two eyes. I pulled over to document it. And honest to God, hand to God, I pulled over and I got off the highway, because I was going to get video, and I was going to share it with you guys and talk to you about it. Once I got off the highway, the train had already passed, and I'm not from downtown Chicago, so I kind of...
No, I understand. All the time I try to get footage again. But listen, you're the guy that got all the famous footage of them beating up the innocent people and helped expose that with the whole thing, what they did at the Trump events. You're amazing. Matt Dubiel, stay there. This is just blowing me away right now because, folks, these are smart computers. You know, they're 20 times the size of your phone that all the stations, TV, radio are plugged into so they can take full control. It's Obama's kill switch. It's the kill switch. Well, Merry Christmas, America. What a different country we were back in the day of Charlie Brown's debut with Peanuts on television. Now we have calls for UN troops in Chicago, and we have reporters, talk show hosts, station managers like Matt Dubiel with his news station, News and Talk 1530 WCKG, and, of course, the FM 102.3. And we just announced we're going to be moving to Trump Tower in a few weeks, covering all of Chicago with the FM, not just like the AM covering all of Chicago. We've been on the station, I don't know, 8 years or so. Got a lot of listeners. And the feed got cut. And, of course, we have congressional hearings where they say, oh, we censored Alex at lunch. The heads of Facebook, Twitter, and Google are in there saying, at lunch we saw that InfoWars was #1, and we knocked it down. See who they're obsessed with? Because we know when Loretta Lynch says, we're going to federalize the police and put them under UN control, Trump is undoing all of this. But the problem is Obama, in his era, they put an internet kill switches into all the telecommunications. In fact, pull it up. Obama's internet kill switch in all radio, TV, broadcast internet. Go ahead and type it in. You'll have articles from us 6 years ago when they did it. Obama's kill switch passes, and it's in all telecommunications. And then Obama, in the last Defense Authorization Act, came in and set the whole thing up. Was I right? I said 6 years ago. Okay, I'm sorry. It was 7 years ago. See that memory? June 26, 2010. New bill gives Obama kill switch to shut down the internet, and it passed. So it's in the new Telecommunications Act. They passed another version last year. Take over the internet. It doesn't mean that we won't have a free internet in the future. It doesn't mean the telecoms aren't going to try to end net neutrality. They were ending it with what Obama called net neutrality. All this new censorship's here, as Ajit Pai said, and now the EAS system, his engineer tells him, just cut off the feed. Roger Stone's here to talk about this, Matt Dubiel. But, I mean, Roger, I'm going to find out in a moment, are we even, has the engineer been able to fix it? You got to, I guess, unplug the EAS. That's what's doing it, obviously, and go right back to the satellite. That's their fault. The EAS just broke when we talked about Chicago and the UN troops because they don't want anybody there to talk about it. They don't want anybody there to build opposition. They want to set the precedent. What do you make of this, Roger Stone?
You know, Obama's people really thought through these things. So net neutrality, first of all, their policies not in any way reflect net neutrality, but they grab the slogan. Here's the point. It's pretty simple. The current net neutrality rules only regulate the ISP providers, Verizon, AT&T, Comcast.
It gave monopoly power to the big, quote, liberal telecoms.
But the content providers are completely unregulated. Facebook, Twitter, Google, Amazon, YouTube. They can defame you. They can censor you. They can destroy you.
Oh, I forgot. That was in Obama's bill, is that they're allowed to censor us and defame us. They were given immunity. So, again, they can engage in any type of telecommunications they want. All the old ones can't.
Exactly. And then in this case, you're absolutely right. The follow-through in the final defense appropriation around Christmas of the last year of Obama's presidency sets up a national censorship board and appropriates the funds to have all these left-wing groups go out and be the arbiters of what's fake news.
With George Soros, ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center, admittedly, Google announced this publicly, running it and censoring us in live time. So going back to Matt Dubiel, very well broken down, Roger. Again, this is the stay-behind networks. Just like Bloomberg reported, the bureaucrats are all just ignoring Trump. It's the same thing. And clearly, as you said, they just did a software load in there that if we talk about the UN and Chicago, they knew this was coming, cut me off. Has your engineer been able to get us back on air?
We got on immediately. As soon as you stopped talking about Chicago specifically, the feed was back on, and it was almost as if it was faded up. It's the oddest thing I've ever experienced. I've been in this business for 20 years.
Hold on, you said it sounded like it was faded up, just kind of...
Yes, yes.
Ooh, that wouldn't be software. That means they're doing it in live time.
Well, it also means it's a test. It's a dry run. It's just the same as the disgruntled employee who turned the president's Twitter feed off for 11 minutes. There was no disgruntled employee. That's a dry run for what is about to come. I suspect that this is a dry run.
Here's why I think it's really, really important. It's because it's not just this rogue commissioner in Cook County calling for this. The vehicles have already been trained in here. I've seen them. I don't know where they put them, but when I pull, it's all, anybody who knows how to look up transport records can look up whatever trains were coming into Chicago on August 16th about 1:30 to 2 a.m. And I know this because I was at an event at the Palmer House in downtown Chicago. After I pulled over to take pictures, Alex, I was followed onto the highway, and I was arrested. Followed and arrested. And the rest, I can't talk. I'm not going to.
Wow, that's why you told me you didn't want to get into all this. You said I guess you're just going to say it all now. Wow.
I didn't. Yes, I would. And there's even more to it. I mean.
Well, we need everybody to find the UN. We need Chicago police that are patriots. Anybody that says enough is enough, show tips at Infowars.com. Tell us where the UN base is. And, of course, the media will be, Jones claims there's a UN base. Here they are, saying they're going to try to bring them in with the UN. Here's Loretta Lynch when she was still in, saying they were going to do it. This is their globalist coup d'etat. Just like the EU army says, if Spain or Italy or anybody tries to pull out, they will march an EU army in.
Which is why Ajit Pai, the chairman of the FCC, who was only a member under Obama, said that the current net neutrality rules have no foundation in rationale. They were passed because Obama ordered it. He simply ordered it.
And it is the reign of censorship that you've been banned on Twitter. It's not like we're just saying this.
Alex, I figured this out. I was merely banned 60 days before everybody else.
They announced at the end of this month it's happening.
And therefore, everybody else will be following me.
They said the date's the 28th, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, they're testing. That's why I said that. That's why they all keep saying your high-level sources, keep saying the Congress people. We've been told Trump's gone by the end of December. They're getting ready to make their move.
There's no question. They think that they can engineer the coup d'etat one way or another. As the public credibility of Mueller continues to disintegrate, the likelihood that he can pull off some process-related charge against the president is fading, which is why they'll then move to the 25th Amendment strategy, as you and I have discussed on this show now for several months. They call us conspiracy theorists. In a couple months, they will call us sages because this is going down. Senator Ben Sass is in on it. Senator Robert Corker's in on it. Jeb Bush is in on it.
This is a literal technocratic, technological technocracy coup. They admit it. I've got stacks where the New York Times says our resist movement will take over in the next few months. In fact, Kit Daniels brought me the article. I was going to cover it till Matt got on. It's on newswars.com where the New York Times says our resist movement and our resistance movement will take you down. We are unstoppable. I mean, they are moving, ladies and gentlemen. They mean business. This is simply insane.
Well, in all honesty, it's why I tell everybody that I deal with to go to the InfoWars store site. We need a war chest to fight this.
That was my next thing. Matt, stay there. I want you to both stay there for one more segment. Here it is. New York Times clings to hope of leftist resistance will bring down Trump. And the author chortles in here and says, you can't stop us. Trump's done more than George Soros, Bernie Sanders, and Saul Alinsky. We're taking over, and we're launching our takeover. And then they've got full-page ads by Antifa saying they're going to have a violent overthrow. And then when we point it out, they say it doesn't exist. They are getting ready to make their move. Guaranteed. And since you mentioned it, Roger, everybody needs to expose the move to do this. Everybody needs to fight. And all the radio stations need to know. The FCC's got good people running it, but the software has been hacked by the Democratic Party and Soros. So the EAS is for nuclear attacks or whatever, not for when they cut you off and put Obama on or Hillary or whatever. That you hear, Trump's being removed, he's gone. Same thing happened in Germany. And, of course, that was a good thing they were doing against Hitler. But here they're going to use that system where they took over the radio and with their program with people they had in place. With Operation Valkyrie. They're planning an Operation Valkyrie against Trump. So it's your duty, obviously, at that point. You didn't hear the president or Ajit Pai or anybody say do that. And that'd be bad if they said it to cut off feeds. You just simply unplug it and put the feed back in. They're going to hit our satellites, you name it. We've set up emergency phone banks for the stations. I haven't really announced all this yet because it was a little bit presumptive. But I'm going to have to launch next week emergency operations to keep us afloat using other means. People should also record these shows in case you're completely shut off. You'll still be able to transmit in your area, and this will be an evergreen transmission.
But let's recognize they have unlimited funding in tax dollars. We have only what...
Yes, and that's why free shipping, and by the way, they corrected me. Anywhere in the 50 states, you can still order today and get it before Christmas. But they just said it might be tough because the shipping department's doing a great job. But you need to order today. Free shipping store-wide. The high-quality toothpaste, the nutraceuticals, the Brain Force, 50% off, 67% off colloidal silver. Buy some high-quality products, T-shirts, you name it. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Our best deals ever. A lot of these items are going to be sold out for months because we're just blasting it all out to get funding, to dig in and hunker down for the Second American Defense of the Republic. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2. Matt Dubiel, Roger Stone, and myself. And Roger Stone riding shotgun. You know, I really should get hysterical about this because Matt Dubiel had to go. He's got an emergency at the station. 1530. We've been on it for 8 years. He broke big news at the riots where the Democrats came to attack the Trump rally, shot the footage outside of the cops being attacked, reported it all, told us that he was told by locals that they'd been paid to come and pose as Bernie Sanders supporters. That later came out in the WikiLeaks. He's a great source and got arrested videotaping the UN vehicles coming in August. That's why I remember the exact time. Everything pulled down into it at 1:30 at night, driving home from an event, and got arrested. He just had to go. And I've never seen him freaked out in the year. Family man, got a bunch of kids like I do. I know his wife. And you were pointing out talk radio is the thorn in the globalist side, because when they have a takeover, they've got to have one message. They can't have a bunch of other messages.
No, and they tried desperately to develop progressive talk radio, and it just never took off. You can't name a truly influential progressive talk radio host where it's been a lifeblood for the liberty movement. That's why they have to shut it down.
And you see the open censorship against us, openly calling to shut us down, openly calling to shut off the president's Twitter. And they did that test, and then CNN says, oh, he's a hero for doing it. Roger, I think clearly they're planning to make their move in December, but now Mueller's moved it back a year or is talking about it. Is that a foil to make Trump feel confident? Or
what I think is happening here is that Mueller is so under siege, the credibility of his investigation is listing, at the seams, and therefore they're counting on the Democrats winning the House in 2018. Mueller produces his report.
They relaunch it then.
Right. He doesn't produce an indictment. He produces a report finding that the president obstructed justice or perjured himself, and then it's used as the rationale for an impeachment.
And I think we forget what happened the year before when his whole thing was blown wide open with all the people openly working together to lie about Russia.
So, and now remember, he only would be indicted by a majority vote of the House. The president would have to be convicted in the Senate, but the Senate is razor thin. And we can't tell what the future of the Senate is.
And that's why they're on a rampage to steal these states now. They're saying in the New York Times, they're going to impeach Trump. They're going to take the House. That's why all conservatives and libertarians can't just go to sleep and think, oh, look, the economy's coming back. Oh, look, the border's getting more controlled. Oh, look, political correctness is in trouble. They don't care. This is a vicious, hateful group, filled with George Soros, Antifa, Saul Alinsky, scum.
Well, look, their entire takedown of Trump has various aspects. There's the political establishment aspect, Mueller, Comey, McConnell, the leadership of the House and the Senate. They've got their street thugs paid for by Soros. That's Antifa. These are different elements of a national strategy.
They're just cutouts. They're like SA, street thugs versus SS.
Exactly.
Again, Roger Stone's our guest. We're going to break here in a moment, and we are going to come back. You're going to ride shotgun with us. We have Mr. Hagman joining us, and he was the first guy to break months and months before they even announced their Day of Rage, November 5th, and then all these new ones, that they had PIs and people inside the Antifa meetings, and that they were planning all of this violence. But again, this is the AstroTurf to make it look like, oh, look, there's a national crisis. And now they're in the New York Times saying a national crisis is coming. It's Trump's fault, and he's got to be removed. So that just gives them the political cover. I tell you, this fight is so close. Again, Doug Hagman's going to be joining us. Joel Skousen's coming up. Andrew Torba of Gab openly being banned everywhere. Google's calling for Gab to be removed from the internet. Facebook wants it removed. They do not want any competition. This is a savage, criminal takeover. Be aware of it, America, because the battle for the Republic has really just begun. We will win, but only if you understand it's a long fight. Roger Stone's riding shotgun with me. Doug Hagman of the Hagman Report is going to be joining us with his great intelligence network and a law enforcement background. Roger, you asked me a great question during that short break. Go ahead and ask it again.
Yeah, what is the rationale for moving UN troops to the streets of Chicago? Is it because of the gun violence and the collapse of society? The president's right. Somebody is killed every 3 hours in Chicago today.
Well, that's how it works. They refuse the National Guard there. They create a place where they've taken the guns. The corrupt groups are shipping the drugs in. It's kind of a safe zone for criminals to operate. So you let it get as bad as possible, and then you call in the UN to do gun sweeps, and then that sets the precedent for the UN to go into Western countries and do what it's done all over the world and has always been a goal. And so you have Loretta Lynch last year with her Strong Cities initiative, demonizing police, saying we need the UN to codify local government and come in and oversee the police, basically with federal control backing the UN. So it sounds insane. Sounded insane to me, but they actually called for it. And so what's happened is their whole plans, even though Trump's in place, they don't care. They're going ahead with a plan they already had set up years ago. This is just Just like in the EU, where they march in EU troops now unannounced. They go, what's this? Well, we're EU troops. We heard you want to leave. So it's the same thing. Our government has sold us out to multinationals. Trump's gone in, but he's only a beachhead. And then you read in Bloomberg, yeah, the bureaucrats are all ignoring him. They're all spying on him. They're all lying. You know, we're the resistance. We're going to remove him. We're going to kill him. I go, hey, they say they're going to kill him. And then they put out fake headlines in Media Matters. Jones says the FBI is going to kill him. I didn't say that. I said the globalists that say they're getting ready to kill him, Phil Mudd on CNN, the congressmen that have told you they're getting ready to take out Trump, that they've been told that, they're building this confidence game with their own people in government to hang on. We'll suppress the economy, and we'll get those Bitterklinger guns, and we'll have control. Just hang on.
That's why you had Congressman Jackie Speier yesterday saying, the rumor is everywhere that Trump is going to fire Mueller. We're hearing it all over Capitol Hill. That's because they started the rumor. The rumor is meant to destabilize Trump. He came out immediately and said, no, I have no plans to do that. But
that's right. They say the cue to riot is when Trump fires him. Trump doesn't do it because the wheels have come off and it's proven fraud. Don't interrupt your enemy when they're destroying yourself, as you said. And so then they come in to have a simulation, as if he did, to then cover up the fact that they've been caught red-handed manufacturing.
I think that's exactly right.
Again, Roger Stone's riding shotgun with me. We have Mr. Hagman joining us. I'm not going to go into his whole bio or all the different law enforcement groups that he trains with his group, but it's great to have him with us. Doug, give us the intel report from all your sources that are always way ahead of, it seems, everybody else.
Hi, Alex. Mr. Stone, good to be with you. Yeah, right now, here's what we're seeing. I've got investigators that have infiltrated the on-the-ground groups from San Francisco to New York City. We're seeing a lot of activity there, but more importantly, what we're seeing are the members of the permanent state, the shadow government, if you will, the permanent bureaucracy meeting on a weekly basis outside of Washington D.C., making plans on how to overthrow. Or I shouldn't say overthrow, how to obstruct the forward movement of Donald Trump's agenda. And in doing it, as part of that, we're also getting information about who's in the crosshairs. And I've heard your name come up. I've heard Mr. Stone's name come up. I've heard other big Breitbart members of Breitbart and other people come up as to what they plan on doing in terms of shutting off their communications and lifelines.
And
that's where we're at.
And now they're in the news again saying they're getting ready to make the push. But when we report on it, they say we're insane and it doesn't exist. What is the tactic there?
Well, it's to look, if it doesn't happen right away when we say it's going to happen, or if it 4 years ago, 2013, I reported on this, and I reported on the structure, the infrastructure that was being put and being built to carry this out. And we had thought it was going to be, we're seeing today was going to happen long before today. It didn't. But we're seeing the fruits of that labor back then happen today. And it's just if you can't, in today's world, if you can't see it, if it doesn't happen right away, or if you say it's going to happen and a month or a week goes by and nothing happens, well, then you're a liar, or you're it's all hype, it's all hyperbole.
Exactly. Well, it's a classic thing. It's a military tactic from World War I, where they would through bullhorns say we're not attacking. We're not assaulting. As they were bayoneting people, they found with at least enough people, it creates hesitation so people don't go into battle mode, so we don't get ready. They just say nothing's happening while they announce to their own people, we're going to take over, we're going to kill, we're going to burn, we're going to slaughter, we're going to get everybody, we're going to lock up all the conservatives, we're going to, but then, oh, we're not doing that, you're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we need to be, at least in my view, and based on all of the information I've gotten from my investigative staff and the volunteers who were out there in the meetings or watching the meetings, is this. We have to be prepared, I think, for anything to go, I hate to use this phrase, but for things to go live, I suppose. But that's the only way I know how to describe it. For things to go from a hypothetical arrangement or something that we would think is, being planned for the future, That could happen at any time. And a lot of this is contingent based on everything I've been told about the Mueller probe, how well this fares out. They're getting a lot of pushback internally. The GSA, of course, just turned over 13 devices and documents when in fact they had no legal basis to do so. We're seeing a lot of lawlessness take place within the Mueller, the Mueller investigation.
The Clinton penetration of the FBI, the Clinton criminal operation inside the FBI, that's what it is.
Exactly. So the more that's exposed, and this is my my reasoned analysis, the more that is exposed, and the bigger, the longer, and faster and harder we push against this, the more. The bigger the pushback against us will be, against the mainstream media, against the alternative new media, honest media will be. And
exactly.
I think
that's why we see the censorship converging, the propaganda converging, and now that the Mueller thing is in trouble, they meant to launch it this December, as Congress and others told you, as they now admit, that's falling apart, but they still are so arrogant, even though every one of their other operations is blown up in their face, from stealing the election to you name it, they are still intending to go ahead with this, it looks like.
Well, and
yeah, of course.
And it's why they are so apoplectic about the new net neutrality rules, because it's rolling back one of their major initiatives to control that channel of communications. Trump is reversing one of their greatest weapons. That's why you have this giant disinformation campaign. It's going to cost more. You're going to be censored. This is all nonsense. It's all disinformation.
You know, net neutrality, what a poor name for that particular order or law, whatever it was.
They named it what they were getting rid of. We pretty much had it before. Obama was getting rid of it. Sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't broke before. Don't fix it now. So when you hear the net neutrality being removed, of course, people have the worst thoughts, but they don't bother to read beyond the 144 or 200.
That's right. The net neutrality was the rollout legalese to back the internet control switch.
And they say crazy things like, you know, every Google search you do is going to cost $5. My own grandson told me that. It's complete nonsense. It's disinformation.
Yeah, and they call us. I mean, who's gullible enough to believe that? Especially, apparently, a lot of people are. But you're right. You know, so I think now is the kind of the crunch time. At least this is what I'm getting right now. It's crunch time right now. So between now and I'm going to say the first week of January, second week of January, I would anything could happen. The way they're going at this.
That's right, Doug Hagman, totally on target. It's like they're getting a World War I or World War II. Armies are lined up. They're sharpening their bayonets. They're loading their field artillery. I mean, this is serious.
I've never seen it worse. And I've got a couple of contacts inside the Beltway, and they say, look, we just don't know what's going to happen, but we know something is.
Stay there, Doug Hagman. People can follow all of his great work at HagmanReport.com. We'll be back, and Roger Stone's riding shotgun with us. Folks, we're not hyping this. This is the reality. But if we stand against it, recognize it, raise the alarm, they may back off, or we'll at least be ready for them when they come. If we go to sleep, it's going to happen for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here, back live, broadcasting worldwide with Roger Stone, riding shotgun, former head of the Trump campaign, longtime confidant. Doug Hagman, law enforcement trainer, one of the top private investigator firms on the East Coast with amazing connections inside the Patriot element of the FBI and more. And Doug, you were about to get to your sources inside the federal government and what they tell you is happening and how serious this is. It's now come out in the news that Eric Prince and others have private security around the president. We knew that a long time ago. And that they are expecting a rogue CIA coup at any moment. But Roger, you said you know how it's going to go down. Tell us that, then we'll go back to Doug Hagman.
Here's what I believe. General Flynn has pled guilty because he's going to point to someone. The supposition is that he would incriminate the president and say that the president directed him to call a meeting through the Russian ambassador. I believe it is more likely that the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is the one who directed General Flynn to make that call. The underlying call is perfectly legal. It's within the purview of their job. But remember, Kushner has been under hours of interrogation by the FBI, by the House committee, by the Senate committee.
And one contradiction, one half-forgotten thing is a process crime of lying to the FBI.
So, and I think that people know that Donald Trump is not going to let Ivanka's husband go to prison on some trumped-up process crime. So he is likely to pardon him. I think he held the door open to pardon Flynn, and they are hoping that the pardon of Flynn and Kushner, conceivably, would spark their revolution.
All right, let's give Doug Hagman, who's been joining us, the floor, because he's always polite and pauses, to really flesh out his intel from his federal sources and other key areas.
Well, if I can ask both you and Roger a question, because one of the areas that I've got kind of a black hole about is what happened at the latest when Donald when Jared Kushner, I'm sorry, when Donald Trump Jr. or was it Jared Kushner?
Both of them have recently testified, but it was Donald Trump Jr.
All right. What happened during that Senate Intelligence Committee meeting that was behind closed doors? I don't have any information that I can authenticate about that, but it does, except to say it goes back to, okay, it would be to Jared Kushner and then to the president, basically using them as a means to get to the president, and of course, forcing Donald Trump's hand to pardon either one or both.
Sure, they're just trying to get to somebody that Trump cares about.
Well, and it would just bring the whole investigation one step closer to the president, because Mueller doesn't indict Kushner and then close down his investigation. He conceivably indicts Kushner for perjury, let's say, or for lying to the FBI, and then his investigation goes forward, getting closer and closer to the president. I think that's the game plan.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, these are investigators looking at people trying to find a crime and then show the cover-up. But there's no crime. I mean, it's crazy from what I've been able to determine. All of these, I mean, this is an abusive process. An abusive process.
I think you're absolutely right. But right now, just as Washington, is always swept with rumors, the rumor is that there's a shock and awe moment for the president, planned by Mueller, most likely right after the first of the year or just before Christmas. Many people believe that would be the indictment of Jared Kushner for some process-related crime regarding the Flynn phone call to the Russians.
Sure, and then that derails the recovery, everything, and then they're not going to just let Trump be pushed out. They're going to go after everybody, shut down the free press. They've called for massive arrest. I mean, they're going to go authoritarian is their decision now. This is a true criminal group. Other key pieces of intel your sources have given you, Doug Hagman?
Well, this kind of circles back around to what you were talking about earlier. In conjunction with everything, there is a plan to bring back, of course, under that pretext of the Strong Cities Network, the Obama administration, UN, to announce the UN peacekeeping force in Chicago, and of course the top cop, UN has no jurisdiction there. We're seeing this, or we're hearing this play out a little bit in the preparations made for the expectation of violence on the streets because of the embedded nature of the pro-Trump people, and they feel that they've got to put down this fake uprising or this non-existent uprising by the Trump people, when in fact that's the pretext that they're using to bring in.
And this is what the EU does when a country tries to get out. They send in bureaucrats and forces and then even military. And now we're being treated like that with Democrat-run cities that are just like sanctuary cities for illegals. They're saying, we'll go one further. We'll bring in UN troops.
What's most interesting is that the government's, or I should say, their abuse of their surveillance authority is beyond anything we have ever seen. They were using the trumped-up FISA warrants to spy on 30,000 Americans in a simple act of political espionage. That's their rationale. And this includes the spying on Trump Tower, the spying on Paul Manafort, on most likely...
It shows they're going completely for broke. They're lawless. Again, Doug, getting back to what you said briefly before the break, but you got cut off. You were saying that your sources inside federal law enforcement basically have never seen anything like it. And they were saying this is maximum danger. You were saying they agree that there's an attempt to really take over here.
Yes, I think this kind of goes exactly to what Roger Stone had said, that there's this Christmas present awaiting Donald Trump, or this present awaiting Donald Trump. And I think when they spring that, I mean, that's what everyone is kind of holding their breath about. There's a lot of water cooler talk by the patriots in Washington and inside the Beltway about something taking place that's going to rock the foundations of this nation, and it's it's really an us versus them mentality. Now, that's not necessarily among the general rank and file of the FBI or even within the Department of Justice, among the, scattered about the special or the resident offices of the FBI or the U.S. attorneys. This is inside the bureaucratic areas of Washington, D.C. So this is what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing that they are preparing for some sort of event to take place. When I say event, it could be a series of events. It could be tied to the Mueller investigation. I'm not sure, because no one really, I think, has got a good handle.
Well, don't they understand they're not going to hit everybody flat-footed if they try some hot coup, and that it's going to be spectacular?
I don't think they care. They don't care. Seriously, at this point, they feel that they're so far back behind the 8 ball with the Donald Trump presidency. Again, this is what I'm hearing. These are not my words. They just feel that they've lost enough time and they're getting enough hassle where they've got to do something now. They feel the need to do something right now, if that makes sense.
Just absolute cornered rats. It makes total sense.
Something you just said, it makes perfect sense. Look at it in context. The Christmas present they have for Trump, he's expecting a letter exonerating him, and what he'll get instead, it potentially, is the bogus indictment of a member of his own family. Yeah,
on inchoate crimes.
And it's going to be that betrayal. They think he's going to blow up and get mad, fire Mueller, when the answer is let that crook and all of them sink when they actually try to sell all these lies right as America turns against him. Doug Hagman, thank you so much. Roger Stone, thank you so much. We've got Joel Skousen coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're taking back this republic, attempting to get a real beachhead and to at least return our sovereignty back to our country. Powerful, entitled, embedded, evil forces are attacking on every front just against the idea of humanity awakening and the idea that basic things like Christmas are good or Jesus Christ is good or the family's good. These seem like basic fundamental things Trump is doing, but it makes them so angry because they are simple, but they're true, and they're beautiful, and they're timeless. And that's why they want to take them down, because they've got to replace it all with ugliness, because that's what their system offers. We're going to go to Joel Skousen, patriot, Marine Corps fighter bomber pilot, best-selling author, researcher, secure home expert, you name it. And, of course, Cleon Skousen, his uncle, and his whole family, a bunch of great patriots. WorldAffairsBrief.com. He's the editor-in-chief of that. We're going to get his take on this, on North Korea, on a bunch of issues here in a moment. Of course, the UN creeping towards. We're not going to say the UN's taking over tomorrow. The media is going to say that's what we said. They're just telling us, oh, we're going to advise your police, and we're going to come in, and we're going to run your life. Well, now, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Commissioner in Chicago in talks with UN to put troops on the streets of Chicago. That was meant to happen under Hillary. We've got all the admissions by Loretta Lynch and others. So we're going to go to Joel Skousen here in just a moment. But first, ladies and gentlemen, first off, I want to thank you all for doing your Christmas shopping at InfoWarsStore.com. You've been doing it. It's allowing us to continue on at the level we are and hopefully expand in the face of tyranny next year. Without you, we're not here. And we've got super high-quality supplements, great Patriot apparel, the best water filtration systems, the highest quality storable foods, all of it, 50 to 67% off. Folks are like, usually you're 30% off. We found that we're able to sell so much more and make almost no profit, but when we sell so much, you win and we win, and the price goes down, but we make more money to expand the operations. That's why you've been doing it when we do these sales, so we'll just keep lowering the price. We can't lower it anymore because a lot of these items you get auto ship, we lose money because it really is 50% off. We don't mark up supplements 5 times like the average person does. We mark them up 100 to 150%. So when you cut something 50%, you're not making much money, like on Brain Force or new Alpha Power or the fluoride-free toothpaste that is fortified with colloidal silver and iodine. It's amazing. Brain Force, the natural nootropic that is our bestseller with 6,000 plus reviews from Power Reviews with a 4.8 for a reason. We went out and said, what's the very best sellers out there in the country that are $80? Let's sell them for 40. Well, right now it's $19.95. So we can put the map, because Tim Frichet came over to explain it to me yesterday. He said, Alex, the last day to get anywhere in the U.S. is Tuesday, guaranteed before Christmas, USPS. But the warehouse is actually on time, so I told you to say Monday was the last day. You can actually say Tuesday because our warehouse is on time. So we have people getting it out by the next day. They're really kicking butt over there. So thank you, shipping crew. So again, was even shipped right out of here in Central Texas. There's the map. 1 day, you get it in a lot of the country. 2 day, most of the country. And then 3 day, kind of out in the mountainous areas and more rural areas and desert areas. So you can still order in Alaska, Hawaii, you name it, buy today and get it before Christmas. You can still order, you know, Thursday or Friday and get it in a good third of the country. But again, thank you for doing your Christmas shopping with us, beating the crowds. You can get Joel Skousen's fantastic documentary that we made. We intend to make another one. We've just been behind schedule on that. We've already shot it on strategic relocation. The book Strategic Relocation as well that goes with it is a coffee table book, amazing, and his best-selling book, The Secure Home. So again, those are all available at InfoWarsStore.com with a 100% rating. I don't think we have anything with a 100% rating. It says 4.9 on the one, and then I guess 100% would give it to a friend. So it's got like 99% on 100. So, I mean, he is the world authority on that. I remember getting the book, and I was like, is that even that accurate? And I drove out somewhere like 1,000 miles away, and it was accurate. And I'm like, man, this is crazy how he did this. So Joel Skousen is a smart guy, and he joins us now via Skype to get into the UN. It was the John Birch Society. I first ever heard about the plan to munialize cities and slowly bring the UN in, and that's all this is. They tried to bring in troops, National Guard, to stabilize Chicago. Chicago said, we don't want it, and now prominent Democrats are calling for the UN to come in. I'm not saying they're taking over. I'm saying it's part of the long-term plan that Loretta Lynch talked about of having the UN be the authority here with federal backing over policy, just like UNESCO. But Trump is pulling us out of all that. Joel Skousen, what is your expert analysis on this? I think it's a pretty big development, at least psychologically.
I think, Alex, that this is a test case. They're testing the waters to see how the public is going to react to this. It's not going to go anywhere, in my opinion, because the Chicago police chief himself said the UN has no authority there. How are they going to do anything? They can't arrest anyone. They can't round up. You can't take control of the streets without authority. And that can only be issued by the federal government if they invite the United Nations in. And that would probably not even be constitutional or legal. But in terms of constitutional law, states or city governments, let alone city governments, cannot make any agreement with foreign nations. It's absolutely prohibited. That's the exclusive role of the federal government. It's called
treason.
Yeah, it's certainly not in accordance with the Constitution. Rahm Emanuel, of course, is a globalist, the mayor of Chicago. He's kind of keeping a lower profile on this, letting Commissioner Boykin push this through. But frankly, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But it is a test. They're testing the waters to see how much backlash they get. Now, certainly, the Trump administration isn't going to allow this to happen. If they stopped it, I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats in Chicago went to the courts and said, you know, we want to have the UN here, and let the courts overrule the Constitution. And that's very, very possible, given the fact that the courts have overruled Donald Trump on 100% of the right things that he's done. It's a 100% track record. The courts have stopped him.
That's right. Joel Skousen, how does it feel to be a prominent John Bircher, your uncle, one of the founders? I mean, at the core of exposing what has now come to pass. I mean, I got to say, the track record of you, your family, the John Birch Society, and others, without you guys, we would literally have been defeated long ago. How did you discover the plan, and how does it feel to be so vindicated? I mean, that's why we're all under such attack, as we've been right. But, I mean, how is it to be so vindicated?
Well, it does feel good. It's been years in the making. You know, my uncle started this. He was under a great deal of attack for exposing the communist, how many communists were in the State Department. McCarthy was under attack. McCarthy has been vindicated, though you wouldn't know that by the way that the media parades McCarthy around as something that was evil, but it was been vindicated after the fall of the Soviet Union, how many agents were in this. But my uncle also went one step further in writing The Naked Capitalist, where he discovered that in the State Department, it wasn't communists that were keeping communists in power. It was non-communists at the higher level of government that were keeping or stopping Congress from investigating and firing any of these
And now,
communists.
just like Soros, it's rich men that use authoritarian governments to control people.
That's right. These were globalists in government. I'm convinced, for example, that Alger Hiss, the famous aide to President Roosevelt, who got a lot of our high technology, including nuclear secrets, over to Russia during the Lend-Lease period. He was accused by Whittaker Chambers of being a communist, but you know, he went to prison for perjury, but the establishment protected that guy for decades, would never let this guy go down. He was urbane. He was sophisticated. This was not a communist. In my opinion, he was a globalist who went and joined the Communist Party in order to let them feel like he was one of them, so that as he ushered them into the Roosevelt and Truman administration, they wouldn't think ill of it. But I'm
no, exactly. Communists can't even wipe their own noses. Historically, they always have to be backed up by these robber barons.
Yeah. It's the globalists that are behind this, and they're using communists to break down the world order and to replace it with their more benign form of socialism, but it is socialism.
Joel Skousen, worldaffairsbrief.com. Exactly. They use communism to come in and dynamite, tear down the society. Then globalism comes in like in China, and it's just modern slavery. Now, again, I don't want to make it about tooting Joel Skousen's horn or Cleon Skousen and then Barry Goldwater. But, I mean, you listen to what those people wrote, like his uncle and others right there at the beginning. It's exactly what then happened, but we held it back so long, they didn't get it when they wanted it. So I want to get his prognosis on where he sees it going forward. But understanding people that have been right and celebrating that fact is key, because that's why they attack us so much, because we have the guests, the info of the people that are right over and over again. And that's why they hate us so much. It's why they misrepresent what we say, what we do, why they take our satire when we do it and twist it. Well, I've kind of cut back on that because they know we know their plan. And even their minions now, 20 years ago, their minions didn't know about the plan. Now the minions know about it and have decided to join with it. The average Democrat even knows this stuff now to a great extent. It's crazy. You think information will wake them up, make them stop. No, they like it. So Joel Skousen, in the 8 minutes we've got, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want to cover getting into this, North Korea, Trump, the clear moves to try to remove Trump, Mueller. What do you see in your very accurate crystal ball?
Well, I've been publishing the World Affairs Brief since just before the year 2000, so I've had a long time to build a track record of what I've been predicting. And I have, frankly, been ridiculed because I have, for over 10 or 15 years now, predicted that there would be a third world war, nuclear war with Russia and China. Now, there's very few people that are laughing nowadays because obviously it's very much in the news that Russia and China are a threat. I've always said, for example, that North Korea is going to be the trigger event for World War III. And that looks like it's coming true. However, with the advent of Donald Trump, and remember that the globalists who control both major political parties has always tried to control the presidency. I mean, they did everything literally to stop Ron Paul from becoming president, including changing the national intelligence estimate about Iran. They had to have some excuse to step down from their attack on Iran when he was running for president because it would have accrued to his favor. And as soon as Ron Paul was out of the running after the Republican Party twisted all the primaries to make sure he couldn't win, they were back on with the Iran has a nuclear weapons program. But incredible. I mean, people were scratching their heads. How does the CIA suddenly say that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapons program when they've been tooting that horn for 10 years? They manipulate intelligence for political purposes. And then Mitt Romney came along, another person who is trying to make it with the establishment but wasn't a globalist. And no matter what he did to bend over backwards to please them, he hired Michael Chertoff to run his campaign and to pick his advisors. He hired CFR people all over the place. And yet they didn't want him in the White House because you can't have a non-insider. They're going to see too much in the White House with all the black operations going. And so now comes Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump could never have gotten elected on a pure constitutional conservative platform. But running on a populist platform, appealing to blue-collar workers, he was able to sap away a lot of support from Hillary Clinton, who wasn't very popular with Democrats in the first place, and actually win. And that's why they've been trying to get him out of the White House. It's incredible how certain people continue to put out the information or disinformation that Donald Trump is an elitist, he's just playing us along, but I don't believe it. I mean, Donald Trump can't hardly follow a script anytime he speaks, let alone a complex, And
we see real hatred from the globalists and real fear.
Well, that's right. And that's why they've created this false intelligence about the Russian interference in the election. Putin said it all. He said, why would we try to interfere with the election? The globalists controlled the U.S. election, and it's going to be one of their candidates. And why even try? We don't have any influence. Of course, in this case, the globalists didn't win. They wanted Hillary Clinton. And Donald Trump came in, and that's why they've been trying to get rid of him, and they're going to continue to succeed. As I pointed out in this week's World Affairs Brief, they're either going to try one of four tactics. One is through impeachment, and that really isn't going anywhere, even obstruction of justice. That's one of the reasons, as you said, they're going to try to get him to induce him to fire Mueller so they can get him for obstruction of justice. They've tried to, in the Russian investigation, indict lesser people like Jared Kushner and, of course, Michael Flynn and the former campaign manager. But that's going nowhere. I mean, none of those things have anything to do with the Russian collusion. They're grasping at straws, and people see that. The other thing is the 25th Amendment. This is a very potent thing. If they can induce mood-altering drugs into his diet and get him to be unstable, they can use the 25th Amendment to say that he's not fit to serve as president. Now, he is on 12 Diet Cokes a day by his own admission, and that's very, very stupid with aspartame and other very nerve-damaging, things that are in Diet Coke. If anybody's listening to this and drinks diet drinks, they're really crazy. This is just stupid to do that. You know, I've talked about the potential assassination. I don't think that's a last resort, because one of the problems with assassination, well, there's two basic ones. One, you create a great deal of conservative conspiracy believers because they always leave lots of trails.
Sure, you make a martyr.
And then secondly, you make a martyr out of it. And they can't afford to make Donald Trump a martyr. The movement, as you know, Alex, is much stronger than Donald Trump. The movement is powerful. It is an anti-government movement. It is an anti-establishment movement. It's not quite 50% of the electorate, but that's still very powerful when you consider what a small percentage of the people actually vote.
I agree, but they hype killing him everywhere. I think to look strong in front of their own conspirators and their own minions and hope some random person does, because they sure are hyping it a lot.
Yes. Now, let me go back to the overall geopolitical thing. They desperately need to get away from Trump because, I mean, he has slowed down their agenda, except in foreign policy. I mean, he's done the neocon will in Syria. He's bought into the chemical weapons by Assad, which is absolute stupidity.
Yeah, he's a nationalist and a capitalist, but he still buys into their line when it comes to national security.
And that's because his gut instincts are good, but he doesn't have the he doesn't have the experience or the background to counter these very high.
When you say intelligence, you don't mean mental intelligence. He doesn't have the real intel.
That's right. He doesn't have the real intel. He doesn't have the background. I mean, as a military person, I can see through all the holes of these military briefers who come up and tell him what's going on in Syria. He doesn't have the wherewithal to counter those, and so he gets taken down by that.
Exactly. You were a Marine Corps officer in combat. I've got folks that worked in special operations, not just regular special forces. They all see right through it. They all know what's really going on in Syria, but they say, yeah, the president just isn't being given all the real intel. He doesn't know McMaster's keeping troops there and trying to form a new ISIS group.
Yeah, and he basically doesn't have anybody in the White House now to advise him. There's nobody on our side who is countering the establishment briefings that he gets every day. Although I will say that I'll tell you, the establishment briefers are not allowed to talk about Russian interference in the election. He just shuts them down. He just says, don't go there. I'm not buying that. So he is countering the things that he does have good information on. He just lacks the information to be able to counter the full range. Now, on North Korea, Donald Trump has decided to take military action against North Korea. And he is forcing McMaster and all of the other Pentagon and Mattis to come up with 3 or 4 major preemptive strikes.
And this is key, because I agree with your analysis. They don't want it. He sees it as a threat. So it's Trump's the one that wants it.
That's right. Now, here's the key thing. They've been telling Trump, you don't want to do this during the Winter Olympics. This has very international significance. So it's either going to be in January before, a short-term thing that's supposed to, where they can convince him we can do this and get out before that, or it's going to be after the Olympics, but not during the Olympics or just before the Olympics. I personally, my gut feeling thing, he's going to it's going to postpone till after the Olympics. That's 9 through 25 February. Now, with that said, China and Russia know that Donald Trump is serious and that the U.S. is making military preparations for a preemptive strike on North Korea. They are trying to do a blockade of North Korea in order to induce Kim to strike one of the naval vessels. This would then justify the strike on North Korea.
They're looking for a Gulf of Tonkin event.
That's right. They're looking for a real Gulf of Tonkin, not a fake one like the Gulf of Tonkin thing was. And I think that's very plausible that they could get that because North Korea is saying that a blockade is a
act of war.
Is an act of war. However, I think it's a high probability that China's going to twist North Korea's arm because this trigger event is going off too soon before Russia and China are ready for the Third World War that they want with the U.S. And so I think they're going to twist his arm and have him agree, since Tillerson is desperate for a diplomatic settlement here, to agree to something that will postpone this military engagement. I think there's maybe a 30 to 40% chance that Kim may agree.
All right, stay right there. Do 5 more minutes with us. I know you've got great intel, and that's what the preparations are. And the military is being told is that the strike's going to happen, but you can't just barely strike them. They're going to attack Seoul and other things, and I guess that's why we're hearing now that that they've got to, as you've heard from the top generals, they're going to have to nuke them and take out the whole DMZ. Which I don't like North Korea, but I don't want this to happen. We'll talk about it in 1 minute. Yeah, that's where things would be going, definitely, if Hillary had gotten into power. But now we've got Commissioner there in Chicago and Cook County is in talks with the UN to bring in UN troops. It's all about just getting us ready for that. Further conditioning. Remember, we were crazy. That never happened. But that's always been their plans, what the UN does around the world. Joel Scalzo is with us another 5 minutes. He is the editor-in-chief at worldaffairsbrief.com. We've got massive U.S. troops building up at the biggest level we've ever seen since the armistice in July of 1953. We see the blockade, the big naval strike groups there, the carrier strike groups, and we saw Defense Secretary there, about a month and a half ago, touring it, and the South Korean defense head goes, you know, if you hit North Korea in front of cameras, it was for propaganda purposes, it was a warning to the North. If you hit the North missiles, you're going to have to take out the DMZ because they're going to attack Seoul. He goes, yes, we're ready for that. You can't take that out conventionally except with nuclear weapons. I mean, the only way to knock it out, and I know I'm not a fighter pilot bomber like you from Vietnam, but I mean, I've studied the entire strategy there. You have to nuke all of that or use energy weapons, directed energy weapons to fry the people in those bunkers with the artillery, or it just turns into a giant war they all pour across. I mean, if you're going to do it, you've got to exterminate everybody on the DMZ, on the north side. I mean, that's, and I said that, you said, well, they're planning limited strike, but now we see them kind of getting everybody ready for that. And the president talking about fire and fury.
Well, actually, I agree with you from a tactical military standpoint, Alex. You have to, I mean, you've got 15,000 artillery tubes aimed at Seoul and the military bases along the DMZ from the northern side, and that's a lot of firepower. Now, I mean, you're not going to destroy Seoul in 2 hours like some propagandists have said, but it's going to do some damage. And so the U.S. does have to do carpet bombing of that area. And I think there are some very large area weapons that can make it, unusable at that time for a short period of time. But you've got to defang the 3 legs of his military offensive, and you don't have to kill civilians to do that. You can neuter the DMZ with massive carpet bombings, and of course you could do it with tactical nuclear weapons as well. We have tactical artillery shells that can do that, although those were removed from Korea several years ago. We have tactical weapons that can be delivered by bombers. They can make it radioactive enough. We've got neutron weapons, which the U.S. says they didn't develop. We know that they did, which can neuter those. I doubt very much if they want to go nuclear, just because that would give Russia and China an excuse to start a nuclear.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So won't the U.S. be up against, and its allies, a lot more if we just go conventional against those crazy communists?
Well, we could go conventional, actually, with a lot of cruise missiles. It would take almost 500 cruise missiles to take out all of the air bases, the air assets, as well as the missile launch sites. But it's that artillery forces. You're not going to get the second level of artillery, which is the long-range artillery that's behind a range of mountains on the behind the DMZ. And they are embedded into tunnels, but you could, once you've eliminated air or control of the air there, that you could set up combat air patrols, and every time they come out, I mean, you can blast the tunnel entrances. We know where they are, with cruise missiles to make it so that they can't roll out of those tunnels. You can take down that artillery. It's not going to be easy, and they're going to get off some shots to Seoul. But I think if they do this right, they can neuter North Korea's military capacity within 3 days.
Well, I meant to finish this segment, but I got to do 5 more with it, and I'll try to just shut up and let you talk. I want to ask you about how we get peace, how that could be done, and hopefully, but if a war happens, again, the time frame and what you expect the North to do. And again, they know Trump is serious. I hope Russia and China, if this happens, stand down, because as much as I like Trump and what he's doing against the globalists, I know they're even upset about what he wants to do in North Korea. It's almost like careful what you ask for. Then he's his own man and wants to take out North Korea. Wow, we'll talk about it straight ahead. All right, Joel Skousen is leaving us here in just a few minutes. We have another guest joining us, the head of Gab, that Google, Facebook, Twitter are saying just ban a true open social network. I mean, it's incredible censorship. Joel Skousen is the editor at worldaffairsbrief.com. Just great information. Just recapping other key points then about preparations for war, the timetable, and hopefully how can there be peace?
Well, the only way that you're going to have peace with North Korea in the mix is to take out their military capacity. Trump is determined to do that. There was no doubt in his speech yesterday. He says, I'm going to handle the North Korean problem. Now, that said, all the globalist advisors around here are trying to stop this military strike. They know that Russia and China aren't ready. And so they basically want to defer this until the next decade when Russia and China are ready. In the middle to the early part of the decade is when their weapon systems will be coming online, and they'll be able to really threaten the United States. But Trump knows that Kim is a real threat. Even McMaster knows this. I watched his NPR interview with Judy Woodruff, and she was point blank with him, and she said, look, what's changed now? I mean, North Korea is an existential threat to the United States. Why are you waiting to strike? And he would not commit to say, we're going to strike. And the reason he wasn't going to commit is he didn't want to telegraph to North Korea the imminency of what they're planning militarily. But he kept dancing around the question when you said, well, why are you talking diplomacy? I mean, Kim Jong-un has said he's not going to negotiate his nuclear weapons or his missiles. And so what's stopping you from striking? And he wouldn't answer that. And I think that's from a military standpoint. He doesn't want to say that it is imminent. Now, that said, the timetable for this strike in North Korea is most likely after the Winter Olympics. Because if you strike North Korea before, from right now through, and I don't think it's going to be in Christmas time, but even in January, there's no way this war is going to wind down before 2 or 3 months, even if you devastate their military. I mean, there's going to be a lot of mopping up to do. I don't think the U.S. wants to send actual troops into North Korea, but you may have to do something in terms of stabilizing and gutting the DMZ to make sure that all those tunnels are collapsed and that type of thing. So that would interfere with the Winter Olympics. So I think this is a timetable for diplomacy, for Tillerson and the globalists to get China to twist Kim Jong-un's arm to agree to something. Now, if he does agree to something and Trump puts off the strike, Trump is going to be watching like a hawk. And he's going to say, you know, I will give you 2 or 3 months, but if he starts to back out of these things, we're not going to go that far, and the middle strike will be back on in the springtime.
By the way, I mean, you're a well-researched guy. You've been accurate on 95% of what you predicted and talked about. But you normally were against both Iraq wars. You've been against basically everything we've seen the globalists do. But it sounds like you're in agreement with Trump's thinking on this. A, is that true? And B, who do you think's then giving him this different advice to get away from this strategic patience that we've seen for 30 years?
Well, it's not really strategic patience. The globalists have been really pacifying the West about North Korea.
Sure, I just put the name of their program, the name of the...
Yes, no, absolutely. Absolutely, Alex. You're right. I am for taking out North Korea militarily. We're past the point where we can take out China and Russia militarily, or you're going to have to wait until they make the first move, a preemptive strike on America, before you retaliate. Because we, the globalists, have given them all the military technology. We gave Russia the first uranium.
So you're saying take out the trigger that the globalists are planning to use for the really big one, get strong now, in the face of it, stop the nuclear war.
That's right. And get your new missiles online and stop this rigmarole about de-arming and denuclearizing your military forces. We've taken our 3 Minuteman warheads off those missiles and replaced it with a single warhead. That's a 300% reduction in, or 3 times reduction in nuclear throw weight by our missiles. But I think it's important to realize that even if he goes to war with North Korea, if he doesn't do it right, there's going to be a lot of damage to South Korea. There will be another South Korean war. But I'm predicting that Russia and China aren't ready yet to take it to a full nuclear war against the United States. And so what we're going to do is see another Korean war. What I think the globalists will do if that happens is they'll try to stop Trump from actually winning the war. They'll try to go for another ceasefire like we had in 1953 so that you preserve this trigger to once again come off in the next decade when it's supposed to. That's what I think. In the meantime,
could a targeted decapitation kill Kim Jong-un and then make a deal with the generals to phase out what they've done, like East Germany, West Germany?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't is because Kim Jong-un is a puppet. China is controlling North Korea. The generals listen to China. They make sure, I mean, they have to play up to Kim Jong-un, but believe me, China runs North Korea, and they would install someone else because, remember, it's the perfect trigger event. You have some other nation start the war so that Russia and China don't have to do it and get the blame directly.
Just like Trump's got the ships all going back and forth in front, I mean, that's got to send a message to China and everybody else. I mean, you see Putin's trying to say, hey, let's not have a war. Everybody stop. Everybody stop. I mean, you can really see the concern.
That's right. They are concerned. So that's why I'm saying I wouldn't put it past Russia and China to twist North Korea's arm and say, you know, make any kind of promise. You can break it later, but make a promise to make this military attack go away until the globalists who have assured us they want to get rid of Trump can make Trump go away. And that's a very real possibility. If that doesn't happen, if Trump doesn't buy into this phony diplomacy, then we're going to see military action before the spring is over.
All right, worldaffairsbrief.org. Everybody should subscribe. Also, a lot of the articles are on the site for free. Really interesting information, and I appreciate you joining us, Joel Skousen.
May I add one thing?
Sure.
Alex, your listeners can get a free sample issue of the World Affairs Brief by emailing me at editor@worldaffairsbrief.com. This Friday, I'm going to be talking not only about this North Korea threat, but also the blockbuster revelations about the Bundy prosecution being charged by a whistleblower with extreme prejudice. The case is almost ready to be dismissed. Another victory for the American patriots.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, I tell you, we should pray on this North Korea thing because it's so out of control. The globalists set North Korea up with China, and the whole thing is just unraveling. And you want a real president, you got one. It doesn't mean I even totally agree with this. I understand why Trump's doing it. It's just, I just hope those idiots in North Korea and the communist Chinese back off because I can feel it and I can see it. The United States has got a new sheriff in town and they're getting ready to hit him. And I'd like to keep living, but I wish the Rothschilds hadn't created communism. Wish they hadn't overthrown Russia. I wish they hadn't done any of this. But that's why we're in this position. Globalists. They got to run everything, don't they? Until they blow it all up. Soros has been caught in WikiLeaks wanting to blow up Israel. It's just crazy people. Crazy people. We're going to go to break, come back and talk to our next guest, Andrew Torba, founder of the very successful Gab.ai, which they've been in the news, Facebook, Google, saying we want it banned. We want them off the web. Imagine. You say, oh, well, you know, we just banned you on Facebook. You know, we have our company's rights. Now they say we want Gab banned. They're just horrible monopoly pigs. Briefly, please support the broadcast. Pray for the broadcast. We're praying for you. We're in this together. And please get the products at InfoWarsStore.com. We have 50% off on close to 100 items that are our best sellers. Many items are 67% off. They're lost leaders like our high-quality colloidal silver. I want you to see how great it is for topical, but also sore throats, you name it. That doesn't mean it works for everything, just like antibiotics don't work for everything. It's just another tool out there. And Brain Force Plus, Now 20% more, that's 50% off. Alpha Power, our new incredible product, I believe it'd be our bestseller. Stamina, libido, endurance, brain, you name it. 50% off. What everybody's getting for their friends and family is fluoride-free toothpaste. Help get them off that bad fluoride toothpaste. And it's also, again, empowered and emboldened to fortify with colloidal silver and iodine. All Super Blue products, 50% off. InfoWarsStore.com, 50% off. Free shipping. You are the resistance. You fund the operation and you get great products at the same time, a win-win. So thank you all for doing your Christmas shopping and beating the crowds at InfoWarsStore.com. Welcome back. I am your host, Alex Jones. The articles I'm about to show you tie into our next guest. French mayors panic as migrants overwhelm cities, beg French President Macron for help. Dozens of new videos of people being killed, stabbed, murdered, burned up. Just one article, zerohedge.com, upon Infowars.com. Sweden migrant charged with ruthless gang rape of women walked free. Well, why not? It's like San Francisco. Shoot a woman in the back. As long as she's white, it's a good thing. And that's a white jury doing that, of course. Swedish police banned from describing criminals' color or race. They're passing laws in Europe not to do it. And that ties into this. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of them. You show the knockout game in Chicago or Austin, Texas. You even show a local clip of local news with, 6 black guys beating up a white guy for no reason, screaming F you Trump supporter. They ban even local Fox News because you're not allowed to show that because the left is pushing this. So attack in Nuremberg, and you've got the African migrant, all the free welfare and stuff isn't up. He's walking around in his underwear on the street. Sees a guy with his back turned to him, goes and punches a 70-something-year-old man, then kicks him in the face, stomps on his head. The guy's fighting for his life. And if he dies, the migrant's not going to even get any jail time because he killed a German. And that's a good thing, according to the Green Party and everybody over there. Some of the women are getting raped and stuff. They just said, well, it's your fault. Just learn to enjoy it. Because they're leftists. They're conquerors. They're here to enslave you. They're here to break your will. You have to understand, they know what they're doing. Andrew Torba is the CEO of Cocoon, and is a Republican and a Christian. Remember 2016, he was banned from being a contributor, and then it just goes on. From being a build-a-wall contributor, the creator of Gab.ai comes in the wake of a rash of censorships and unexplained account closures of people who post Republican libertarian thoughts in social networks, including Twitter and Facebook. The actions have been called Orwellian and come with little explanation and with no appeal process. What happens here? A little bit of my text here got cut off there, so I'm going to have him introduce himself better. But he's been in studio for a while. Gab exploded, and now with a straight face, they've gone from denying they were censoring years ago to saying, yes, we're going to ban anything we don't like, anything we don't control. Twitter suspends Britain First leader who President Trump retweeted. Here are the alt-right bigots getting purged from Twitter. There's Vice News praising a purge of free speech before they would just deny it. Facebook suspends user for calling for, quote, sensible migration policies. There you go. That's Infowars.com, Paul Joseph Watson. And it's all being handed over to the UN, these globalist groups. And then Ajit Pai gets lied about what he did. He just reversed Obama-era stuff that's massive censorship. It's in the legislation. So, again, Andrew Torba, Gab.ai, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Alex. And I think you hit it right on the head. These people do not want the free flow of information. They do not want videos like you showed in the opening of the segment to be shared. They don't want people knowing the truth. And the populist uprising, the nationalist uprising that's going on around the world is going to continue. They see that their technology platforms are being used to propel truth, to propel information, to propel alternative news. And that's why they're starting to crack down. And I think that they're going to continue to crack down in preparation for the 2018 midterms and for the 2020 presidential election as well.
And, it hit me. They want to shut down news sites more than ever because as they shut down free speech on theirs, it's going to automatically drive them to you, so they can't allow you to exist while they're censoring. That's why Google, Facebook, and Twitter have openly called for you being shut down.
Absolutely. You know, the left has always said, well, if you don't like it, these are private companies and they're allowed to ban whoever they want. You go and build your own. And that's exactly what we did. And now we have Apple and Google, this duopoly, who controls 98% of the mobile app distribution marketplace, saying, well, you're not allowed to participate in the free market because we said so. We don't like what your users are posting, even though you can find hate speech and objectionable content, especially geared towards whites, on Twitter, Tumblr, Reddit, Facebook, anywhere you look on the internet.
Sexualization of children, torturing animals, anything degenerate. But if it's like, hey, let's all work together and stand against Black Lives Matter, funded by the Nazi collaborator George Soros, they ban that because it's unifying. They really want to ban that.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we've been seeing, YouTube. There was a massive pedophilia ring, and they were making, hundreds of thousands of dollars on these explicit videos that were being shown to children. We see child exploitation happening on Periscope, which is Twitter's live streaming app. All of this is allowed to happen. These companies are allowed to have apps that exploit our children. And, we're not allowed to have apps because, of hate speech or objectionable content or any other subjective terms that they like to throw around.
And let's talk about who they said last year they were going to hire, and now they've done it, to police Facebook, Google, Twitter. I mean, they formerly hired former Stasi people, East German Secret Police. They've been hiring Soros's people, Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL. I mean, they are literally hiring the opposition to free speech, the most hardcore leftists to run it.
Absolutely. The ADL is very closely tied with policing speech and trying to stop, quote unquote, hate speech on the internet. We see, companies like Snopes, which are, far left fact checkers, quote unquote. They're not even really trying to hide it. In fact, I think it was yesterday, a Twitter executive came out and said it's no longer possible to stand up for all speech. So again, like you said earlier in the segment, they're not even trying to hide this anymore. They are openly against free speech, and they want to shut people down. And in the free marketplace of ideas, the best ideas are always going to win. And that's why they're forced to censor the better ideas.
Well, they can't have people actually tune in to us being inclusive and liking everybody and just promoting free speech. And that's why they're panicking, because they want to demonize who we are. I mean, all over national news, they attack me constantly, but then shut down my response. They want to create the straw man while silencing the real thing. Did you see the hearings a month ago? In the House Intelligence Committee and Armed Services Committees, multiple ones where they said, don't worry, we're censoring InfoWars in live time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's happening, Alex. I mean, here's the thing. They're doing the same thing to us. They tried to call us the Twitter for racists, the Twitter for Nazis.
Oh, I know. Google came out and Twitter and said, ban Gab.ai. I mean, and then meanwhile, you've got liberal, conservative, Christian, devil worshiper. You're just saying, hey, as long as you're not saying kill somebody or posting child porn, you can do it. That's what it should be.
Absolutely. From day one, we said all are welcome. This is about free speech. This is about individual liberty. This is about empowering users to decide what they want to see and don't want to see, and not allowing some corporation to decide that for them. And, that's something that Silicon Valley just can't have. So they're trying to shut us down in every way possible, while at the same time, trying to preach, oh, we need net neutrality. Well, newsflash, the net is not neutral today, and Gab is a living example of that. In fact, the FCC even cited us as an example.
That was my next point. Ajit Pai said, look what you're doing to Gab or Congress people. I mean, he says, how dare you claim I'm censoring when I haven't done that?
Absolutely, Alex. It's disgusting, and we're going to continue to fight for free speech for everybody on the web.
Guys, you printed it for me again a few days ago. Will you print me Ajit Pai's statement to Google on censorship or to the media? Because I want to come back and read some of that, because that's the reality. I mean, all the leftist sites are celebrating. Ban Paul Watson, ban Gab, ban Alex Jones, ban Drudge, arrest them, shut them down. And then they go, nobody's censoring you. Stop trying to censor us. Andrew Torba of Gab.ai is our guest. I remember about a month and a half ago, I read the articles on air. Google calls for banning Gab. Twitter calls for banning Gab. And they were banning it on people even mentioning it on their platforms. That'd be like the phone company saying, well, you can't call your friends and talk to them about what you want. Now with the technology they've got, they can have AI computers with Shazam-like technology that's keyword listening, and not just spy on you with keyword, but block what you say. Just like text now, try to send a cuss word, it won't let you. And then try to send another word that's the latest word they say is not good. This is so authoritarian. Google's App Store has banned Gab, a social network popular with far-right for hate speech. And then mainstream media and even so-called alternative goes along with it like, well, we're not part of that. We're going to go along with the system. But now suddenly, thousands of liberal YouTubers, thousands of liberal bloggers that were successful are being censored, banned, demonetized. Because, see, it was never about that. It was all about total control, dummies. Once you start getting rid of somebody's free speech, it all goes. What shameful, shameful folks. We're going to go back to our guest in a moment. But I have these stacks of articles where, again, here's from Vice News. Here are the right-wing bigots getting purged from Twitter. And then it, by the way, didn't even go after the most hardcore people you could call racist. You know, they sit there and try to mention people like Gab, which isn't even racist at all. It's just a free, open system. I mean, you read much more racist stuff in YouTube comments. But again, it's all selectively enforced. It's really dangerous. Before we go back to our guest, we are listener supported. The last thing they're trying to cut off is our money. And, you know, they cut off a lot of it. But thanks to you and thanks to people realizing we're under attack and we're selling great products, people go, you know what, I'm going to sign up every month for auto ship, an additional 10% off, and then get the Brain Force or the Alpha Power or the Super Male Vitality or the DNA Force or the Cell Shield or the fluoride-free fortified with colloidal silver and iodine Super Blue toothpaste. And get 50% off. We've got 50% off on all best-selling items except a whole bunch that are 67% off. And the way our pricing works, that's at cost. You sign up for auto ship, we lose money. But you know what? I found when people get stuff at cost or below, they become hardcore customers and they see how great the products are. Caveman's been sold out. Ultimate Bone Broth Formula, super concentrated. Find out about the amazing benefits of that. That's 50% off. Read the thousands of 5-star reviews. All of it available, 50% off. Infowarsstore.com or 888-253-3139. And a lot of great new products as well. Our new probiotic, Floralife. We've got the Real Red Pill. That's a whole other story. We've got Survival Shield X2 that's so amazing. It's all there. Infowarsstore.com or 888-253-3139. And they've done stuff like go to our ISPs, try to get our shopping carts kicked off. As a libertarian free thinker winner, I don't take, when I'm trying to upload something in the middle of the desert, I've been trying for an hour, and the 5th time it messes up, I'm just happy I'm going to try it again, because finally I climbed to a mountaintop once in Big Bend and took an hour to transmit the thing I'd uploaded. You know, it just felt so good. So I kind of like, oh, man, they have these secret police, and they attack me, and they're trying to break up my family, and they sent in these black ops. They had these people paid off, and they did this, and they sabotaged that, and I'm like, this is really fun, because that's how my brain works. It doesn't adapt to give into it. It adapts to fighting it. But at the same time, we need to relay, folks, this is real authoritarianism. This isn't a game. This isn't a joke. It isn't like, oh, Gab, they're trying to shut it down. Or, oh, they have hearings in Congress saying shut down Gab and InfoWars. They know we're the cutting edge, where it's not liberal, it's not conservative, it's pro-human. It makes sense. It scares them. It scares them. And so if they're in public saying they're censoring us in Congress and working with the tech heads, imagine what's next. They want to take the president off Twitter. It just shows how sick they are, and then shut down any alternatives and have all the ISPs and hosts throw you off. That's what's happening, and they're already hitting all the little people, okay? Okay, so, Mr. Torba, I've been ranting. You've got the floor. Break down what you've been through, what we're facing. And again, we're not complaining. We want folks to know we're the free world. You're the free world. And you're next. And it's an epic voyage to promote and stand with us, because we are together. How do folks support and promote Gab? And tell us the other attacks you're under.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually earlier this week, we were attacked by the New York Times, and they tried to smear us. The typical, this is an alt-right social network, the Twitter for racists, all this nonsense. And the funny thing is like you guys, we are also user supported. We didn't go to a Saudi prince like Jack did from Twitter and raise billions from him. We didn't go to hedge funds. We didn't go to Silicon Valley venture capitalists.
You don't call your users dumb effers?
Absolutely not. Our users make Gab possible. And right after this hit piece from the New York Times, we actually ended up reserving $600,000 in our funding campaign, which is now topped at, I think, $1.2 or $1.3 million. So we are.
By the way, that sounds like a lot with lawyers and bandwidth and nothing. That is nothing. And I'm not complaining. It sounds good. I want to be positive. We're up against trillions, and millions can defeat trillions, but we got to have it.
Absolutely. And it's the will of the people, and it's our community that is our strongest asset. And I think that's one of your strongest assets.
Exactly. It's people power, and they hate it.
Absolutely. And, you know, here's the other thing, too. We're empowering creators. We're empowering people. What we've seen over the past several weeks is actually a ton of people on the left that are signing up to Gab because now Twitter is so boring. They have no one to actually debate and argue with because everyone on the right has been banned or suspended. So I think it's really interesting, and we're going to start to see more people on the left and on the center.
Well, I was about to say that they don't even like you there as the example because the idea that there's something else than the big four. I mean, that's it. They just don't want there to be another restaurant at the end of town.
Exactly. You know, they preach about, you know, the free market and, you know, private companies and, you know, they're going to force people to bake a cake. But as soon as we come into the marketplace and try to compete in the free market, you know, we're shut down at every possible avenue.
Oh, yeah. They're saying you can't get a cake anywhere. In fact, they're now calling on CNN and MSNBC to arrest libertarian and conservative leaders. They say, once we take back over, we need to arrest all of them. The other hosts are like, yes, yes. I mean, they're crazy.
It's pure authoritarianism. And I think, you know, these people cannot stop the decentralization of the internet. They're going to lose all of their power with things like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology is going to revolutionize finance. It's going to revolutionize technology. And Gab is going to be a part of that. So we're working actively on, you know, creating a censorship-proof peer-to-peer protocol that no government, no individual company, no amount of money, no amount of human resources can stop. That is our goal. That is our vision for going forward here.
You know, I pulled the article up like 4 times the last 2 weeks, but I was trying to search during the break, couldn't find it. What's the name? It was everywhere. What was the name of the headline? It was like FCC head, you know, tells Google and others to quit censoring. What was his statement? Because he mentioned Gab. Oh, here it is right here. FCC, Pai blast everyone from Twitter to share for opposing his efforts to repeal net neutrality. And then he's got the quotes right here about, you know, you're trying to shut down Gab. You're trying to shut down congresswomen and their campaign speeches. I mean, you guys are monsters.
Right. So what he said is, he said, if anything, recent evidence suggests that hosting services, social media platforms, and edge providers on the internet infrastructure are more likely to block content on viewpoint grounds, which is the exact fear-mongering that you know, the big tech companies are making about the ISPs. The hypocritical irony of it all is that they're doing it right now themselves.
That's right. Continue, because this is a decent article, but I can actually get the statement itself. There's a link in here. He just eviscerates them because they're foaming at the mouth now. Why were they dumb enough to uncloak and admit they planned to ban all of us from the web and communication?
Honestly, I think that they were just being caught too frequently, and it became too obvious that, you know, people in the public were starting to catch on to it. So they had no choice and just doubled down and went all in. And, you know, I have patriot friends that work at these companies, and they've been feeding me this information for over a year now.
Oh, stay there. Let's get into that because I've got some of those too. I'm just so busy. I'm not arrogant. I just don't even have time to just, like, here's this Google document, here's that. And then it turns out it's accurate. Like, here's $1 million to censor Alex Jones. Go in and downvote him. I want someone to talk about your sources inside that have to sit there in these cults of anti-human evil, of total fascism, corporate fascism, these big fat billionaire fake leftists with their suicide factories in China. Andrew Torba is our guest, and I actually pulled up some of the articles during the break where they specifically say we want it shut down, and where they go around and try to take their, they do take their ISPs away. They're just gone. I mean, that is literally a digital ghetto like Matt Drudge, I first heard coin like 6-7 years ago, and then he said it in person in this very studio. And he met with, you know, the Supreme Court justice, the only other living one that was conservative at the time, not the one that died. I'm going to leave out who it was, but I think it's clear. And they were briefed this is all going to happen. Well, the good news is Drudge raised the alarm. And I'm not kissing Drudge's butt. It's true. He raised the alarm. Our audience raised the alarm. So we knew this was coming. But I got to tell you, I'm really ashamed of the so-called left. I mean, they don't even want you to be able to go out to your own website And look, I don't like the KKK and all these groups, but if they want to go have their own website and they don't call for violence or don't kill anybody, they can have it, just like Antifa. But they're calling for killing people and they don't get in trouble. They say derailed trains, we already derailed one. They're 20 miles away. There's another derailment. We go, hey, it might be them. The media's like, how dare you, hate monger? Antifa never did anything wrong. And on their official site, they're saying derailed trains in that area. So I've got Ajit Pai's statement here. I want to go back to Andrew Torba here, founder of Gab. But we're at the point where, recap just briefly what you've gone through, having to, like, jumping across the little rocks in the stream of lava to not get burned up. They're even trying to censor the Ajit Pai Daily Caller video because they use 5 seconds of the Harlem Shake or whatever, which is total fair use. I mean, that's my example. There's savage censors, and they've been censoring you, and then tell us what your insiders are saying.
Yeah, so for about a year, I lived in Silicon Valley when I was working with my last company, and I worked very closely with Facebook, Twitter, and Google as a part of that company, and grow very closely with a lot of patriots inside of these companies. And you said it really, really well when you called it a cult. It really is like a cult mentality, and there is no diversity of thought. And these people that are patriots, they're libertarians, they're nationalists, they're populists, they're Trump supporters. They feel like they can't speak their mind. They feel like they can't be themselves, and they feel trapped because a lot of them have families and homes and mortgages.
And by the way, aren't most of them not even conservative? They're just pro-human, nice, common sense. Some are gay, some are whatever, but they're not anti-free market. They're not pro-censorship, right?
Right. They're mainly libertarians. They're live and let live type people. And, maybe they supported Trump. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just have different ideological bends than the typical norm of Silicon Valley. But whatever it may be, they are silenced. They are forced to self-censor themselves. And, our journey has been one that is really historical. We set out to build an alternative to, the big 3 companies that own and control and operate every form of communication, every form of flow of news, and
that's Google, Twitter, and Facebook.
Correct. And, I thought, I guess naively, that we would be able to participate in a free market. But what I learned is that free market is rigged by a duopoly of, namely, Apple and Google, who control not only mobile hardware, but also mobile software distribution, completely. 98% of the market is owned by those 2 companies. So it's very difficult for someone like us to participate in the free market and to compete in the free market.
Why have they particularly targeted you?
Well, I think because I was openly a Trump supporter, and I came out as a Trump supporter in Silicon Valley, was immediately labeled a racist, a bigot, an Islamophobe, and blacklisted from the inner circle of the inner circle in the Valley. And that was something that I think really triggered a lot of people in the Valley. And I think it's a personal vendetta against me, and it's a personal vendetta against free speech as well. They do not support free speech. They are Marxists. They are authoritarians. They don't want the free marketplace of ideas because they know that our ideas are winning and their ideas are garbage.
So they're Marxists flying around in helicopters with 5 mistresses. What they are is monopoly scum that use centralized government to shut down their competition. What they are is crony capitalist dirtbags.
Absolutely. I don't think you couldn't have put it better. I mean, what both of us have really is the will of the people. And that's something that they can't stop and they can never stop. We have millions of people around the world that believe in the fundamental human right to speak freely and to express yourself freely without a government or a big corporation, shutting you down and shutting you up.
And it's fun to be able to go into those spaces like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook and stuff used to be, where you could have a debate with somebody. Even if you didn't like them, you were going to prove how they were wrong, they were in whatever. And a lot of times you find out you're just human and things actually get de-radicalized. It's when you don't let people debate and when you don't let people actually interface that it causes the problems. And Google and others admit they want to compartmentalize everybody into their own little ghettos.
Absolutely. And I think, I watched Matt Drudge when he was on your show a few years ago speaking about this. And that was one of the biggest inspirations to me for creating Gab, because I saw this happening in real time. I saw what these algorithms—
He said, get out of there. He said, go create your own thing. They're coming. The censorship's coming. Create stuff new now.
Absolutely. And that's when I got started. And, that really, inspired me to get going and start building an alternative, a viable alternative. And, Facebook actually even this week admitted that Facebook, using Facebook excessively, has psychological and mental harm on your brain.
Why do you think suddenly Sean Parker and officially Facebook, all of them are admitting we're brain damaging you, we're destroying society, we're hurting your children? Is it kind of like putting a label on the cigarettes? They think it gives them, says they can give you cancer, kind of gives them an out?
I really think that it's a coming to Jesus moment. It's not only Sean Parker, it's former VPs at Facebook that are all coming forward and saying, this is cancerous. What we've done is horrible for society. It's causing more and more divide. And now what they're doing, I think you touched on this a little bit. When people can't express themselves, when they can't express themselves through speech, through words, through the written word, through imagery, through memes, whatever, their next move is to move to violence because they can't express themselves through words. So now they're going to go to violence. And I would much rather support their expression through words than through violence. And I think that's the next step here. And that's a step I don't want to see happen. And that's why what we're doing is so important.
Absolutely. And then they demonize Ajit Pai when it's refreshing to see somebody in government. When I read his letter, it's exactly my understanding of it from deep, nuanced research of we had an internet in 2015. It was net neutral. They came in with a censorship grid. We're just going back. It doesn't mean there aren't telecoms coming in wanting their own monopoly, but we're just bringing it back to where there wasn't as much censorship. This is all a hoax. And they're saying, kill him, kill him, kill him.
It's insane. The racist tropes. And, I've never seen such levels of fear-mongering. There was a bomb threat during the vote. There was a congressman who
Twitter and Facebook let them have huge pages dedicated to killing him.
It's insane. There are thousands of tweets, racist tweets, calling for him to be killed and all this stuff. And then there was an actual serious bomb threat that they had to, right in the middle of the vote, interrupt the voting process and clear the room and bomb sweep it. I mean, this is real stuff. This is the state of discourse in this country. This fear mongering and this hysteria that was created over this net neutrality Title II repeal, which, by the way, net neutrality is actually a misnomer. It's sophistry. OK, it's just like the Affordable Care Act, right? It isn't actually affordable. The web isn't actually neutral. It's a term that they use. It's sophistry to get.
Yeah, they call their takeover of the web net neutrality and go, look, they're repealing net neutrality.
While at the same time censoring, Trump supporters and conservatives and folks on the right.
It's all semantical deception. Wow. Well, please come back and join us again soon. Talk about more of the stories inside Silicon Valley. Very impressed always having you with us at gab.ai. And all of us that are promoting free speech need to promote each other and understand that even though we're not one monolithic system, we're in this together. Thank you, Andrew Torba, gab.ai.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
By the way, about 30 minutes ago or 25 minutes ago, they passed the tax cuts. It's done. It was in the Senate, first in the House, then the Senate, and back into conference. And then now the House has passed it. So it looks like it goes to the president now. So that's a big deal. We're going to come back and play that clip from when it happened about 25 minutes ago. Please don't forget, free shipping store-wide. It's got to end in the next few days. We're on Amazon. I think it's $1.48 from every taxpayer, subsidy on every package. We got free shipping store-wide, 50% off on all our best-selling items, except others that are 67% off. Whether it's our new Cell Force, 50% off, whether it's the new Red Pill, the real Red Pill, Caveman back in stock, Alpha Power, wow, you got to take that. DNA Force, it's all there. Vitamin Mineral Fusion. And you can still get it. We can put the map up maybe. I forgot to tell them. From USPS, you can get it everywhere in the continental U.S. and actually still in Alaska and everywhere. I was wrong. If you order today, because we'll ship it out tomorrow. And so that's 3-day delivery. So if it ships out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you'll be getting it. Hell, Christmas is after that. What is Christmas? Tuesday, Wednesday? So, I mean, there's plenty of time to still get the stuff. InfoWarsStore.com. Please do your shopping with us so you help fund the InfoWar and get great products you need. Check out the hundreds of T-shirts, many of them, that are limited edition. So, again, that means we do one run of them. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And you could not be spending money in a place that furthers your family's future, all of our systems of freedom. It is such a desperate battle, and we need your support and your prayers. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas. Now into hour number 4, Paul Watson hosting from Spain. He's visiting family, will be joining us coming up in the next segment. By the way, they've been trying to pass tax cuts for a decade, and Obama and everybody blocked them. So I get it messed up sometimes because it starts in the House, and then it goes to the Senate, and then it goes to conference, it goes back to the House. But I thought it had already gone back to the Senate and conference. It's already been in conference like 3 times. this year? I can't keep track of it. So I misspoke earlier, and I apologize. And I already knew this the other day, exactly, because McCain went in for chemotherapy in Arizona, so he has to come back for the final vote. What was I thinking? So I thought they'd done the final reconciliation in the Senate, and then were sent it to the House after conference. But I'm confused. It passed the House earlier. Now it's got to go to the Senate tonight. So there you go. And if that doesn't make your head hurt, nothing will. But here's a clip of that. House passes tax cuts. No Dems vote. Senate tonight. DrudgeReport.com's got that. See, good old Drudge got it right. So let's go ahead and play that clip from C-SPAN about 30 minutes ago.
Have all members voted? Does any member wish to change their vote?
H.R. 1.
On this vote, the yeas are 227 and the nays are 203. The conference report is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Paul Ryan is such a fake. God, I hate him. An effing white male. The kind I don't like. They just think they got plenty of arrogant black guys, Hispanics, you know. There's just something about those Eddie Haskell types. I tell you, make me sick. He's walking around like a satisfied old lady.
On the vote of the gentleman from Florida,
I can do it too. It's just fake.
Suspend the rules and pass H.R. 4323 as amended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 4323, a bill to promote veteran involvement in STEM education, computer science, and scientific research, and further purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
It's the last vote in this series, but by a vote of 227 to 203, the House passes H.R. 1, the tax reform bill. 12 Republicans voting no on the bill. No Democrats supported the bill. One of the Republicans voting against was the Appropriations Chair, Rodney Frelinghuysen of New Jersey. So the House is finished with its work on tax reform. The bill now will go to the U.S. Senate sometime early this afternoon. The Senate has 10 hours of debate ahead, and that should get underway in just a little bit. For that debate, tune into our companion network, C-SPAN 2, getting underway in just a little bit, as we mentioned. New York Times says that on the Senate side, Republicans scored 2 additional yes votes, with Senators Mike Lee of Utah and Susan Collins of Maine publicly supporting the bill. Watch that debate again over on C-SPAN 2.
All right. And it is neck and neck on those votes in the Senate. So I think McCain might fly back into town like Superman, is what one big lobbyist told me, and cast the vote for it just so he doesn't look like a total globalist. But I wouldn't hold your breath. He's already voted against it before. But we will see, and we will have coverage of that, obviously, at Infowars.com, Newswars.com, and, of course, Infowars.com. There's so much crazy stuff to get to I haven't even gotten to yet. Look at the story. Police AI mistakes desert photography for illegal porn. That's right. And then we've also got the statement of Ajit Pai. I want to get to some of that. We've got some other big news stories I haven't hit. But, man, the Democrats calling for UN troops in Illinois. I mean, it's like, wow, these people really are trying all this crap. And they don't care we're awake to them now. They're just going to keep moving forward. And Paul Joseph Watson joining us audio only with a ton of powerful news and information to break down today. Paul, tell us what you've got coming up, my friend.
Well, obviously, Alex, we're going to talk about Chris Cuomo of CNN proving himself to be a real man by drinking a vase of water in the correct manner, which proves that he's actually confident in his heterosexuality, Alex, which kind of odd that somebody needs to prove it to that extent, given what he also said about, the quote about him saying he would be perfectly comfortable, his 12-year-old daughter sharing a locker room with a transgender person and seeing their penis. So apparently, Alex, those are the views of a real man, and this is how a real man drinks a cup of water.
Well, that's right. And of course, they freaked out that Trump judiciously a few months ago unscrewed a cap took a quick slurp so that, because I would do it like Cuomo says, like a barbarian, and you know, actually probably spill some of myself. Trump is trying to be very, very careful because he's quite frankly very OCD about doing everything just right, from golf to you name it. And OCD is a good thing in a chief executive. So, you know, he always, and of course now he makes fun of him that, yes, he unscrews the cap and then takes a little slurp and then make a joke that, you know, he won't spill any, but he just, and in videos, he slops some to show what he's trying to do. That, you know, the fact that he holds it with both hands, is judicious about it, and is, you know, I mean, this is all they've got. So Paul, you want to play that Cuomo clip?
Yeah, let's go ahead and play it.
Okay, and again, Paul Watson reporting from the bottom of a well in Spain. Paul, you're doing great, my friend. You're the best, better than me, but you're in a little bit of an echoey room. You might want to turn the microphone around, change the acoustics a little bit. But that's the fun of live radio TV, folks, and having crew that's all over the world who could be on his Christmas break right now, but he wanted to do the show. So we're not putting the great Paul Watson down. Let's go ahead and play that clip of Andrew Cuomo, who says that, you know, if your young daughter doesn't want to see men in the showers with her, that they're bigoted. So he wants your young daughter to be in the showers and see men's genitals. So that's a high quality thing. But he's upset about how Trump drinks water. Here it is.
President Trump's water break is trending on social media this morning. The president reached for a glass of water during his national security speech, and Twitter took note. It has led to comparisons of how the president needs to use two hands, apparently, to drink from a water bottle. He did that during the speech last month and then again yesterday. The Waterworks with the president started with the campaign, of course, when he poked fun at Senator Marco Rubio for pausing mid-sentence for some water. But this was an even smaller glass.
Notice Trump then makes jokes that he can drink with one hand. I mean, it's how he is. He doesn't want to get it on himself. I mean, reportedly, a lot of times when nobody's around when he eats, he puts the big thing on him. And, I mean, he doesn't want to spill it on him. So he gets both hands because he had disciplinarian parents that made him do it that way. Like, people always say, why do you say sir and ma'am and open doors? Well, because I got my ass kicked if I didn't. Here, let's go back to it.
Yesterday, where he used two hands. I believe last time you called it the baby grip.
Well, that is the sippy cup grip that you're using there right now. It is a very good one. I don't get all the hands thing in the glass.
Oh, you're so manly,
I don't know what it's all about. I mean,
you drink from a vase.
This is what I drink out of. I drink out of them, and I hold it like a man with one hand. But that's, you know,
showers little girls.
That's me.
Right, that's you.
And I don't
just
think
have
it's a
giant
judgment. Certainly not one of our biggest concerns. You want to hold a cup with all your hands, you know, that's what you do.
It is the sippy cup grip.
This is my glass.
Wow. That's what you do shots from.
But you do want little girls to have naked men in showers with them. And you are a thug and a piece of crap. And you're somebody that says we can't read the WikiLeaks, only you can. Trump says we can all read it, and you couldn't get the stock market back or win the presidency with your degenerate, filthy, globalist family that are parasites feeding off New York, you thug. Paul Watson, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, remember during the terror attack in New York, I think it was on Monday last week, CNN was running endless recycled commentary about how many glasses of Diet Coke Donald Trump drinks. At the same time, when an Islamic terrorist had just tried to literally maim and kill hundreds of people in New York, major attack. This reminds me of like stalker behavior on behalf of CNN. If you ever had stalkers, they obsess with the minutiae of your mannerisms, how you behave, what you say. They remember it down to a T, and they constantly regurgitate it and obsess about it.
Well, McDonald's ought to be sending him some money for the endorsement, too. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they're basically his stock. I mean, the 2 scoops of ice cream, the ketchup on the steak. I mean, God forbid. We've got earth-changing, mammoth news events happening every week now. And this is what they're obsessed about. You know, it reminds me of when the right wing was obsessed about, oh, Obama's a secret Muslim and all this kind of stuff. You know, at least when that was going on, it was at least somewhat politically related. But it's kind of the same hysteria, apart from with CNN and the far left. It's how many scoops of ice cream and how many Diet Cokes Donald Trump drinks. The way he picks up a glass of water. I mean, who cares?
Well, it shows that he's careful. And he doesn't always do it. It's a little glass. It's slippery. He picks it up. But I mean, as you said, we've got war with North Korea. We've got ISIS crushed thanks to Russia and the U.S. to Trump. We've got the economy coming back. We've got all these things, and it just gets crazier and crazier. And what is it like for you, Paul, to see congressional hearings where the heads of Twitter, Facebook, and Google are on, and they go, we saw the story, it was #1 from InfoWars, it was a story you wrote about the truck attack, and they go, yes, sir, to Congressman Quigley, we deleted it or we blocked it at lunch. I mean, that's how pathetic they are at lunch during hearings. They're admitting they're censoring us in the House Intelligence Committee. I mean, what in the world, in what world is this going on, Paul? It's not even like it's real. I mean, have I in some video game or something? I mean, and by that, they say it's a fake news that there was a truck attack by a Muslim and that a prominent imam warned. Paul, sorry, go ahead.
No, we saw the same thing, like you just said, on Monday with the attack in New York City. You had top BuzzFeed editors on Twitter chastising me and other people because we said that this was an Islamic terrorist attack by an ISIS supporter from Bangladesh. After top officials had already said that on MSNBC 40, 50 minutes before that, and they were saying, look at this speculation. This needs to be censored right now. They're saying it's an ISIS-inspired Islamic terror attack by an immigrant from Bangladesh. It's like, well, yeah, it was. Officials have said that for the past hour. What are you talking about? And it's like, how dare they even be given a platform to speculate with this inane nonsense, which is Islamophobic. So they do it every time now. And Google responded to that, as they responded to the previous time with the Texas church massacre shooter, by saying, we're going to relegate search results of tweets from people like me, people like you, in the, quote, alternative media or whatever, even though they were completely accurate. It's like, yes, those screenshots...
And let's be clear, exactly. Your story goes to #1, and they knock it down. The people vote to take it to #1 with their sharing it, and they cheat to force feed you. What do you make of this? And I'm going to get out of here because I need a lot to cover. Sweden migrant charged with ruthless gang rape of woman walked free. And now out of Nuremberg, this old 70-something-year-old man is in critical condition when an African migrant is running around in his underwear, beats him up while his back's turned. Or let's back it up more when he first knocks him out. And then stomps on his head and all this for no reason. Total insane asylum. Facebook, Twitter, and Google are saying it's racist to show this and are banning it as governments in Europe pass laws saying you can't show a minority attack a white person.
Well, Alex, I just put a story up about an hour ago. They suspended a user on Facebook for a week for saying he wanted, quote, sensible migration policies. That was the exact quote. So you can't even call for that on Facebook now without being banned. In Sweden, they're not even charging the rapist now. There's a massive gang rape, as you just mentioned. And they're going to let them all go, and that's what we see more and more because it's politically incorrect to charge actual rapists. So we're not going to do that. But
we're going to say all men are horrible and all sex is rape, and that kissing a woman or asking her out is rape, while you meanwhile let them all rape and enslave the women, and literally let 30-something guys gang rape a woman in front of everybody, and they go, well, she's white, you're black, or you're brown, it's okay, like the woman shot in out in San Francisco. Then we have a rally for her death. Antifa comes out with guns and has them at my reporter and says, you don't have any free speech. Paul Watson, stay there. All right, Paul Watson is in Spain. I'm going to kick the baton over to him here in a moment. But my wife bought tickets, like opening night, a week and a half ago, to Star Wars. And I just said, man, I can't look at that poor, sad Princess Leia. Carrie Fisher was so eaten up near the end of her death. It's just, to see a person like that on screen, I just don't want to see it. And the others are so chock full of political propaganda. So I was talking to some of the crew, and Daria went and saw it. And she said it was total SJW, that Princess Leia has a girlfriend with purple hair. And again, I don't care if there's people with purple hair, but every movie, the women are the bosses, the women are the heroes. They're all lesbians. It's the same story over and over again. And it's a formula. It's state-sponsored. It's brainwashing. It's like all these shows where the Russians are our enemies. And then the bad guy, because they're the resistance, fighting like an Eric Trump-like character. So I haven't seen it yet. And again, Daria said, yeah, I talked about it on Twitter. They all attacked me. That's because that's what they do. It's a place where they can ban you, censor you, and then all gang up. But Daria, just briefly, we'll go back to Paul Watson. Give us your take on Star Wars, the last drug addict or whatever. Yeah.
Hey, Alex. Hey, everybody. So, yeah, pretty much you summarized it all. So, yeah, this is General Hux. He's supposedly like the second in command after the supreme evil commander. And the first time I just immediately when I saw him, I was like, man, they made him look like Eric Trump. Now, the person that I went to see it with didn't think so, but I mean, I thought so. And some people here in the control room think the same thing too. Well, so that was one thing. And he just kind of has that, you know, the quote, alt-right haircut. Just kind of like stereotypical Nazi, kind of like a bad guy, and the stuff that they're trying to pin on us as the new right movement, that, you know, we're these hardcore Nazis. Now this one is, what is her name? The Admiral Holdo, or whatever the hell her name is. Yeah, so she's super, like, really bitchy, has this attitude of this hardcore feminist that just hates men and want to put them down and everything, and it just has this disdain for any man that is trying to assert his authority.
And then she's got her girlfriend, the snapping turtle.
And Leia's in love with her, and they have this
I'm sorry,
really
go back.
For each other.
I interrupted. You're saying her and Princess Leia's snapping turtle?
They're not sort of really open about it, but there's kind of like hinting at it, that they kind of like they're in a relationship that is more than just you know, it goes beyond just friendship.
It's back chicka wow, chicka wow.
Yeah, so wait, say it again.
Waka chicka wow wow. No, but seriously, I was also being told it's just all these weird terms from today, like Jar Jar Binks had a Caribbean accent. And, you know, ruin. It's all ruined now. It's
and then they have to have the stereotypical token black guy that, you know, just wants to save the world and wants to do the right thing, and he's like the hero. And then the other hero has to be this Chinese-looking chick, and it's just like it's just very, very extremely SJW. Like the whole, and it's not, they're not even trying to be subtle about it. It's just very in your face.
Well, it's done for the Chinese market, which is fine. I just wish they didn't do all the movies totally formulaic like Gamergate, where they said the good guys will be women, the bad guys will be men, and it's just all this agenda to have us fight with each other. And it's, for me, it's unwatchable. Do you think I should go see it?
Well, I think you should go see it, and I think people would love to take to have your take on it. I think that would be entertaining. So I think you should go see it. You know, you never know. You may like it. You may see something in it that.
Well, that woman looks like a giraffe. What's her name? The one with the purple hair?
Yeah, Admiral Holdo. Yeah, I don't know why they made her look like that.
Well, here's my deal.
But I mean, the purple hair, and it's like right away, and she wants to dominate all men, and it's just very boring. It's like at this point, the only people that I think would love this movie are the literal SJWs and the lefties that are running around, and also the people who don't really know about Star Wars. You know, that movie, I think they would like the movie because it's sort of it's targeted on them. It's targeted for them. And
that's right. All right, Daria, thank you so much.
Hey, but on the last point, the one positive thing about the movie is the John Williams original score music. I'm a huge fan of John Williams. He wrote all the Spielberg original scores and all the Star Wars, so I'm a huge fan of his. So I just want to throw that out. Yeah, he's a genius, so I love him.
Dun.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you, Daria.
Sure.
Paul, I'm sorry for hijacking the show. I didn't even know you were doing it today on your vacation. Paul at Prison Planet, please take back over, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I mean, the reason they're putting all that SJW far-left identity politics brainwashing into the movies, one, they're desperate because people are rebelling against it. And two, if you're an up-and-coming director, the big studios go to these up-and-coming directors. I made a video about this, and they demand that they put it in there. So anyone who refuses to put it in there as an up-and-coming director gets shunned by the entire industry. But I mean, it's just not working. I mean, what? There's literally like one movie a year worth seeing now. Their revenue's way down. They're making less money from ticket sales than they did like 15
Same
years
thing with the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, they did the polls and say, do you want to see this identity politics injected into your sports? And it was like 89% said no, they don't want it. If you're sitting down to relax and watch some sports, you don't want that in there.
I was about to say, it's like sports, I want to go forget things. Or a movie, if I went and saw something was SAW, it's fine. But it's like everything's the same formula. They make it the same movie.
Exactly. And then you got a movie like Kingsman 2, which the director said he deliberately didn't make it an identity politics movie. And it's a big hit for a small movie. So, well,
I noticed it actually had a bunch of like anti-New World Order connotations. I think when he said it didn't have that, I think it was the other way.
Oh yeah, they called it like a Brexit-themed movie, and it wasn't even political. It's just the fact that it didn't have any of this enforced identity politics shoved in there, which is what people who go to see a movie want. They want to be entertained. They want actual characters that they care about. Now it's all about diversity hires and injecting all this far left BS identity politics. That's why their movies are all failing. I mean, I've seen like one good movie a year for the past 5 years. It's pathetic.
Well, they admit Hollywood's gone to complete crap. And like you said, I'll go see a movie that's all black people or I'll go watch a Chinese movie or a Japanese movie or a Russian movie. I just want to see good art, a French movie. But then everything becomes an SJW. And it's just a nightmare, and it's unbelievable. Paul's going to take over the next 2 segments. We have free shipping running store-wide. We need to make a lot of money right now to fund the operation into the new year. They've cut off our sponsors. They've come after us, as you know. But thanks to you and the fact that you like the products, you've ordered them, you've reordered them. We have the biggest sales that we ever run, and I've been intensifying the sales, but these are the biggest in our history. 50 to 67% off on almost all our best-selling items. There's a few things that cost me so much that you can't even off the retail do 30 or 40 because that would go below the cost of the product. But they're there. Alpha Power, Brain Force that Paul Watson loves, and so much more. And there's still time to ship anywhere in all 50 states. I was wrong. I thought it was yesterday. It's today. And there's still most areas in the lower 48 tomorrow. But then it gets a little bit risky. But please do your Christmas shopping with us. Don't fight the crowds. Don't fight the traffic. And you can fight the globalists at the same time without doing anything but supporting us. Thank you all. Infowarsstore.com. Paul Watson from Spain. Straight ahead.
We are live. It is the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show. Now, I mentioned this earlier. Of course, yesterday we had the big fear-mongering about the Twitter purge. They did suspend or ban some far-right accounts, which, of course, everyone has the right of a platform to free speech unless they're directly inciting violence. The policy should be in line with the First Amendment of the Constitution, but several people got cut. Well, now Facebook suspends user for calling for sensible migration policies. This is an article up on Infowars.com, and that is a direct quote from the Facebook post that this individual got a 7-day account suspension for. He called for European governments to follow, quote, sensible migration policies. Let's read the full post. The actual thought crime that got him suspended for 7 days. Quote, a reminder that the EU, while drowning in their own Poland for failing to meet their refugee quota. Of course, that's the big news story that's been rumbling for months and months and months. He continued, quote, it's time for sensible migration policies. Get that hate crime right there. Sensible migration policies. You can't call for that work for the people. It's not okay to use your own population as a tool for signaling to your peers how virtuous and caring you are. For that egregious thought crime, he was banned for 7 days. And of course, if the more of these bans you get, the more likely it is that your account is terminated forever. So we have all these Silicon Valley companies bitching or whining about the FCC repealing net neutrality because they want to save the sanctity of the internet. Meanwhile, they push, promote, enforce the most draconian censorship policies imaginable. In some cases now more draconian than things like that China does with their internet users. So a 7-day ban for saying that EU governments should follow sensible migration policies. Now remember, people say, oh, it's just a private company that can ban who they want. Well, no, the threat is way bigger when Facebook is working directly with law enforcement agencies in European countries to harass, hunt down, imprison, and fine people for Facebook posts. So no, it's not just a private company. They're working hand in hand with governments, literally to hunt down thought criminals in some countries. And we refer back to those in some of those examples in the article. Back in 2015, we reported on how the social media giant was working with an organization led by an ex-Stasi agent, literally an ex-Stasi official, to oversee a program to identify xenophobic posts, which basically means any criticism of Islam or the migration influx made on Facebook, and punish people who make them with fines and jail sentences. And that's already happening, has been for the past 2-3 years in countries like Germany. Earlier this year, a German woman was raided by police in order to pay 1,300 euros for sharing an anti-migrant meme on Facebook. That's right, share a meme, police raid, 1,300 euro fine. Deal with it. Oh, it's just a private company. No, it isn't. We also had the story of the 19-year-old woman who was murdered by an Afghan migrant in Germany. Then a woman got on Facebook, posted a picture of the murderer, which was already circulating in German media outlets. For that hate crime, she was banned by Facebook for posting a picture of a migrant murderer that was already circulating in the mainstream media. We've had numerous other examples. In the UK, they arrest thousands of people a year for tweets and Facebook posts. Meanwhile, we've got 20,000 potential jihadists roaming the streets. They do nothing. They allow ISIS fighters back into the country. But God forbid, should you commit a hate crime on Facebook, which means saying that we should follow sensible migration policies, and the thought police may be knocking down your door. That is where we're at in terms of social media censorship. Here's another headline in the same vein. YouTube censored FCC chairman Ajit Pai's net neutrality video. So for about 7 hours, because Ajit Pai made this like funny video where they take the Harlem Shake, you remember that big meme back in 2013, and do a little skit to the Harlem Shake. Now, because the creator, DJ Bauer, complained to Facebook that this was being used without, to YouTube, that this was being used without his permission, they censored the video at the key time that it had just been released. They censored this video for 7 hours. Now, of course, that's completely ridiculous because the Harlem Shake song has been used by probably thousands of different people on YouTube over the past 4 years. Absolutely no precedent for a copyright takedown whatsoever. But because this was politically motivated, that video was taken down at the key time for 7 hours on YouTube. You know, it'd be like using any kind of song that's just in literally every video, every viral video on each of these crazes for years and years. But no, you can't do it if you want to talk about an issue that bothers these Silicon Valley companies, despite the fact that they're the most egregious when it comes to censorship, as we see over and over again. Headline, Italian city removes Christmas tree from town hall to avoid offending Muslims. We see this once again, the complete subjugation and capitulation, not only Christianity, but these individual countries in these European countries, to offended Muslims, even if they're not offended. Like in this case, there weren't even any people who were offended. Just it might offend somebody. God forbid it threatens to possibly offend somebody in the future. It has to go. Christmas tree forbidden so as not to hurt the sensibility of non-Christians. This is out of the European Post. The traditional Christmas tree in the town hall of the Italian city of Bolzano in Trentino has been removed not to hurt the sensibility of non-Christian believers. The association Veterani dello Sport denounced, as in a report by Il Giornale, that's the Italian newspaper, the Association of Veterans organised an event in the public room of the town hall to award the Athlete of the Year prize. They decorated the room with traditional Christmas symbols, and given the fact that it's Christmas, once they finished the event, they left up a Christmas tree decoration. The problem arrived the day after when they received a call from an office of the town hall asking to remove the Christmas tree because there would have been a meeting of a Muslim association in the same room and the tree could hurt their sensibilities. So nobody even complained. Like you see these companies on Twitter freak out when one person complains. Remember last week, I think it was, we had the university which mentioned the fact that snow was white. God forbid you should point out that snow is white. One person complained. They completely freaked out and apologized. In this case, nobody even complained. It's just, oh, some Muslims will be using the building the next day, so they might be offended. Get that Christmas tree down, bigot. This is the attitude that's prevailing in Europe right now. Meanwhile, Oh, yeah, we've also got a story about German schools cancelling Christmas parties for the exact same reason. I'm going to do a big story about that because that's in the German media, but it hasn't crossed into the English language media yet. We also have this story up on Infowars.com. Sweden, my favorite country ever. Migrants charged with ruthless gang rape of woman walk free. Now, we had a story about this a few weeks back. 20 different men involved in this brutal gang rape of a woman in a Muslim migrant area of Stockholm, Sweden last summer. They managed to catch 5 of them. All Afghan Iraqi migrants. Imagine my shock. This was all captured on surveillance cameras. The woman had head trauma injuries. She roamed through the streets afterwards begging, locals for help. They ignored her. They spat on her. They called her a whore or whatever. This went to court today. And they said, because they had deleted basically the phone videos of them abusing and raping this woman and laughing about it, oh, that must mean that it didn't happen. That was literally the argument, even though surveillance camera footage showed that it was happening. And basically, these 5 migrants got off completely free of this gang rape, which they told police about. They literally told police, yeah, we were laughing about it when we were doing it because it was funny to us. They got off on the basis that this 20-man gang rape of a woman in Sweden was voluntary and that she wanted it to happen. Absolutely insane asylum, Sweden. Every day we'll be back on the other side to talk about it. This is the Alex Jones Show Live, Infowars.com. Don't go away. We're back on the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show. Before we get back into this news, I want to tell you about Christmas 34-hour broadcast limited time special. Free shipping available. This is the last day to guarantee delivery before Christmas on all these products with the great discounts at InfoWarsStore.com, including Super Male Vitality at 50% off, again with free shipping. Silver Bullet 67% off. That is a huge discount. And Brain Force Plus 50% off. Those are just some of the discounts available right now at InfoWarsStore.com. We also got Alpha Power 50% off, Cell Force 50% off, Survival Shield X2 50% off, free shipping on everything. And today is the last day, your last opportunity to get all those specials in time for Christmas, not only with the big discounts, but also with the free shipping. Why give members of your family absolute tat that they don't want, that they're going to throw away or they're going to re-gift? Give them something that works. Give them something that's going to help them out in their day-to-day life in 2018 with all these fantastic nutritional products available right now at InfoWarsStore.com with free shipping, massive discounts, our guaranteed delivery from today. You get it, you order it today, you'll get it before Christmas. That is guaranteed at InfoWarsStore.com. Support this network. Before the break, let's talk about Sweden. The gang rape of a woman, 20-man migrant gang rape, which is, par for the course now in those kind of areas because they've been culturally enriched to the point where, the police are literally having to install microphones to pick up the sound of women screaming because they don't have enough coppers, they don't have enough policemen to patrol the streets. The police stations are attacked. The ambulance workers, the fire brigade are attacked if they go to these areas. So they're just going to put microphones up. And, if you scream loud enough, maybe we'll hear you. Maybe we'll respond and get there, in 20 or 30 minutes. Nobody got there to help this poor woman. She was gang raped by 20 migrants, and they've got off because the court said it was all voluntary. Oh, and those injuries, those big welts on her head, oh, well, she could have got them from anything. We don't really know if that was directly related to the fact that they were bashing her head against the stairwell. No, it was all voluntary because that makes complete sense. She's roaming through the streets trying to get help. No one helps her. And because the argument was she was trying to buy drugs, that this somehow makes it acceptable for her to be gang raped by 20 men, and it was probably voluntary. Absolutely incredible. The lawyer is basically calling it the worst gang rape that she's worked on in 26 years of practicing law. They're vowing to fight the case. But again, another example of how Sweden is enjoying its cultural enrichment. There's another headline out of Sweden. I'm not going to get a chance to get into this one. Shocking graphic report, Swedish girl gang raped and tortured. MSM remains silent. That's a 17-year-old girl in the city of Malmo. I guess, like in the other case, she probably wanted it too. It was all voluntary. The migrants are just traumatized. Literally, they have cases in Germany and Sweden where women get raped or they get sexually assaulted by migrants, and then they don't go to the police. They sometimes go to the media later, which is how it comes out. But they initially don't go to the police because they say, oh, well, they've had a traumatic time getting here, even though most of them aren't even refugees. They're not from war-torn countries. But, you know, they've had a traumatic time getting here. Maybe we should just let them do a little bit of raping, you know, because they had the SADs, so we should just let them get away with that. This is the capitulation we see in Europe right now. Italy, I just read that story earlier, banning Christmas trees in their town halls because some Muslims might get offended. Like they're not, even if nobody's complained, but they might complain, and you know they're the first-class citizens now. We have to care about their feelings. Trash our entire culture and religion just because someone might get offended. This is the situation in Europe. Zero Hedge reports. French mayors panic as migrants overwhelm cities, beg Macron for help. Mayors from 7 major French cities overwhelmed by the flow of migrants have written a joint letter to Paris, published in Le Monde on Saturday, begging the government to step in and help. According to the letter, the cities of Lille, Bordeaux, Strasbourg, Grenoble, Rennes, Toulouse and Nantes are taking in several thousand refugees per month, which the mayor says is causing a social emergency as they are backed up against the wall and completely saturated by a seemingly endless flood of asylum seekers. And we've played the footage out of Paris, which is now basically an open-air dump with mattresses on the streets. I mean, the last 2 times I went to Paris, I saw this with my own eyes up close. Like literally just mattresses everywhere on the streets, trash everywhere, these migrants waiting to be processed for their refugee status, even though the vast majority of them are not refugees. And it's a complete mess. They move them around different areas of the town and they just keep coming back. They have inter-gang wars with other groups of migrants from different countries, riots on the streets. That's just Paris. Now, 7 mayors from 7 other major French cities are saying they have the same problem. An endless deluge, a tide of people, no infrastructure to house them, and they just keep coming because the red carpet just keeps being laid out. Now, at least in Italy, with the election coming up there, we have some parties who look like they're going to win who are saying, look, we're just going to blockade the boats coming out of Libya with military forces and just send the message, you're not welcome here. We can't cope with any more. I mean, obviously, that's what Trump did to some extent on the southern border. And immigration is way down since he became president. Don't give them an incentive to come in the first place. Absolute chaos in Paris, absolute chaos in all these major European cities. This shows no signs of abating. Of course, with the numbers, if you read Douglas Murray's book, The Strange Death of Europe, this is not going to end lightly. These populations are doubling, quadrupling in size over the next few decades. The onrush, the deluge, is only going to get greater and greater with no solutions offered by any of these European governments, with the rise in actual far-right parties who are actually dangerous because those are the only parties offering any kind of solution, so people are going to go vote for them. So then you get a clash, you get pressure from the left, pressure from the right, and you get a big mess. That's what's happening in Europe right now. Listen to this headline. Sex Robot Expo in venue switch after terror threat from offended Islamic extremists. The Islamic extremists are offended because there's an International Congress of Love and Sex with Robots, which is set to take place in London at Goldsmiths University, where it was held last year. They're now reconsidering. Now, this is outside of any debate on sex robots, okay, but they're reconsidering holding this conference because it might offend Islamic extremists. They're actually talking about acquiescing to the potentially hurt feelings of ISIS supporters, which is why they might have to move this conference. And again, very interesting that feminists and Islamic extremists are converging again and sharing the same beliefs. Remember, a lot of sex-negative feminists are absolutely outraged about these sex robots because they say they objectify women. They will eventually make women obsolete in some cases. So again, you have far-left feminists converging under the same umbrella as actual Islamic extremists who are equally as offended about this sex robot expo taking place that they've threatened to attack it. And because of that, they're talking about changing the venue. Absolutely insane. Daily Mail reports Turkish Islamic preacher says men without beards cause indecent thoughts in other men because they look like women. A preacher in Turkey has said that men should grow beards to make clear they are not women. Islamic speaker Murat Bayaral spoke on TV show in Turkey this weekend, slamming men without beards. He said men should grow beards. One of the two body parts that separate men from women is the beard. So think of how insecure this Islamic preacher has to be in his own heterosexuality to say that men should grow beards in case men get attracted to men without beards. Just how insecure do you have to be to think that? But of course, you could look at Afghanistan and they have Bachabazi. That's part of their culture after all. We have to tolerate it. It's literally old men having sex with young boys. Remember that story? The US Army individuals within the US Army tried to blow the whistle on it. They were told to shut up. So again, we have this dichotomy of Islam being this, hyper-patriarchal belief system. Meanwhile, it's hyper-insecure in its own heterosexuality to the point where they're talking about men shouldn't be allowed to walk around without beards because it might confuse other men sexually. We have Saudi sex parties in major European cities. So very interesting dichotomy between what they actually preach and what they actually live in their day-to-day lives. Very interesting. That's going to wrap it up for the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show. Don't go away, though, because War Room is coming up live right now. Breaking news, Infowars.com. Don't go away.
I want to apologize to listeners. I lied to you when I told you Trump would win the election, and he did. I lied to you when I told you that they're admitting that fluoride's causing brain damage, and it turned out I was right. I lied to you about a global government existing that was trying to take control of our country, which they now admit is true.
Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge?
I guess actually I didn't lie to you. And I'm on air every day fighting the globalists as they try to shut down free speech in America, as they try to derail our recovery, as they try to fold us into their world government, open up our borders, hand us over to the Islamic Caliphate. But I'll tell you this, when I'm on air, I wear a sports jacket and a nice shirt because I respect the fact that you're tuning in and watching and listening to what I have to say. That we're involved in very, very important activities. And that's why I want to reach out to you right now and explain something that's so critical. And that if you grasp it, we'll be able to literally turn the tide even faster against the globalists. And it's just this. I'm not always wearing this, ladies and gentlemen. I dress like this to politically get messages out to folks that aren't awake, to spur debates, but to also meet like-minded people who are out there feeling like they're alone and don't know how many of us there are. It's like Martin Luther King said, it's all of us of one human race who all have incredible skills and gifts that God gave us that we bring together in the human family to do incredible things. A few months ago, I saw media demonizing folks that put up signs at universities that said, all lives matter. Then they demonized people that said, it's okay to be white. These are universities where they're saying it's inherently evil and an abomination and satanic to be white. Right outside Austin, Texas. Texas State University says that. Most major universities are directing this to create racial division in this country, and it's sickening. That's why I have designed with our crew several new limited edition t-shirts that expose this evil and fight true institutional, leftist-based racial division and classical race war designs. Yeah, if you're just talking about how you're white or how you're black, it's okay. That's fine to be proud of yourself. But isn't it really great to realize we all got red blood? That's why the shirt is in red. Out here in space together, the dark blue of the night sky, but all of our red blood together ties us together, and that's what makes us great. The globalists are creating a fake debate to turn us against each other. Let's come together and say all lives matter. The fact is, it's not just okay, it's great to be human. Let me show you a few of the other designs we've got. They're available at InfoWarsStore.com. They help spread the word, and they help support the broadcast. A total win-win. This shirt is white. Whoa. And you've got major universities, major publications like BuzzFeed saying, is milk racist because it's white? So yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's a white shirt that says it's okay to be white, okay to be black, okay to be brown, but it's great to be human. Now here's a really racist shirt that Martin Luther King would agree with, but that the modern leftists would absolutely hate. It says all lives matter, and it exposes the institutional racism the left and Soros are bringing in to literally take minorities and turn them into the equivalent of brown Ku Klux Klan. This shirt is amazing, it's iconic, and it's limited edition. They're all available at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. And despite the fact that all these shirts are super high quality and are destined to be bestsellers, through Christmas, we're offering 25% off at InfoWarsStore.com on these limited edition shirts.